In Greyfork, it's the day of petitions. Once a month, there's a day in which anyone can come and speak with the Lord and ask them for something, some assistance, for arbitration, for anything like that. And you've been sitting here most of the day, Volin, just dealing with arguments over who owns which pig, little disputes between people. But as the day is sort of drawing to a close, two of your warriors enter the hall together. They've queued clearly for quite some time and are annoyed just by the way that you can tell from their body language. Sir Adam Ashtree and Sir Waymar of Dunwick. They walk forward and they stop together and say, "My lord," in unison, but they look annoyed that they've done that, like they were trying not to.
Adam, speak. Adam, you speak first.
Yeah, Waymar looks unhappy about that, and Adam will nod. "Perhaps you're unaware, and I would like to think that we have managed to keep our disagreements from you, as they are not your problem, my lord. But for years now, I have suffered the jibes, japes, and insults of this brute, and can stand it no longer."
He just fixes him with a slate look, waiting to hear more.
Waymar looks up and says, "Lord, he lies. 6 years ago, this so-called knight lay with my sister when they got drunk at a feast, and she ended up with child. No offer of marriage or support came from this knight, and so I have called him what he is, a coward, a knave, and an insult to the knighthood he claims to have. My own service to House Slade is cheapened by his presence." And then Adam looks at him and says, "How fucking dare you? I paid for the child's education and I brought him a pony when he wished to learn to ride." And he says, "You fucking liar, only after Celise begged you to help him with the child's upbringing did you cough up something from that, some scarce silver, and the pony was an ancient nag near death." They're just like escalating and shouting at each other repeatedly.
He waits. He stands. And once they've fallen silent, he says, "Where is the boy now?"
In Dunwick, Lord, which is one of the villages around Greyfork.
Waymar, you say you've been paying for this child's education?
Yes, well, Sir Adam has not been providing the necessary help that is needed. After my sister begged him to help with the education, then finally he decided to cough up some silver. But it was a pittance, Lord. Not enough to cover the squiring that we were hoping for the boy, and he needs to learn how to ride, and, well, he's without a father.
Morder Howden, can we take any more boys here?
Well, there's always work to be done, my lord. For sure. Doesn't look like between these two they even have half a father or family looking to his needs.
"I have tried," Waymar says loudly and interrupting. "I have tried."
You do not interrupt.
Apologies.
I was speaking with my good lord, Morder. We have a lot of children, and they make a lot of noise in their free times, and they fall asleep and scratch and spill things at meal times. But I suppose we've got to we've got to provide education for the future, and one more won't go badly, but in order to be squired here at in my court, they need to be provided with a sword and helmet and the feed for a horse.
Waymar looks at Adam and says, "You are the father, you should pay it."
My lord, best tell them which one needs to do what, lest they set to bickering like housewives again.
Adam, do you deny that you are the father?
I do not, Lord.
Then everyone must pay for their accidents and indiscretions. You will provide for his. You will provide the greater part. You will provide for his armor, and Waymar, you will provide for the. You will provide for the sword and for the fodder for the horse. And he will bring honor to your family, Waymar.
He's a good boy, Lord. He will. And Adam says, "But as for the insults, Lord, that have never ceased from this man, we came here to ask if we could duel and sort this matter for good."
What time of year is it?
It's a good question. I'd say it's spring.
We're expecting the Ironborn, and I can't afford to have injured warriors lounging around on beds. You are men of the Stony Shore. You should learn to swallow your anger, swallow your passions. I've heard it said that one of the problems of the Stony Shore, one of the problems that my father brought onto the Stony Shore was that he could not control his passions and his anger, and that's what brought about his madness. Do you want to suffer the same fate as my father?
No, Lord.
Then learn to control yourself. You will control yourselves, and you will control your words. You will not insult each other or provoke each other, and for the duration of this year, and you will try to bury your bad feelings. If by the time winter comes, and there is no more, and there is little risk of raids from the Ironborn, your tempers are still short, and you cannot bear the sight of each other, then you shall duel. But until then, you shall bite your tongues and learn some discipline. Understood?
Understood, Lord. Waymar
Dismissed.
says nothing, and they both bow and go.
Try to see that they're for the next few weeks. Try to see that they're on separate duties and don't run into each other too much. Is there anything else?
That's the end of the queue. There's like a couple of more peasants coming in with like minor little things that you can easily sort of sort out. But as you're in the middle of one of them, the Maester will appear and sort of move out quickly and determined next to you and say, "There are ravens, Lord. Urgent ravens."
He that's all. That's all. I finished the open court today. Come, you can, if you still have business to ask of me, you can come back after the meals tomorrow and see if I'm free. The court is dismissed, he says, and stands up, collects his clothes together, and starts walking with the Maester Oliver into his own private quarters.
Yeah, he'll lead you that way. Some of the guards in the hall will usher the peasants out, none of whom make a sort of disappointed noise, but I think you'd see that some of them are inwardly groaning as they're like urged out of the hall.
I think Mortar would get up and help usher them out, and but he'd take that opportunity to maybe listen to a few of their pleas briefly, just to see if there is anything significant that his lord might need to know.
Yeah, it's incredibly significant. One of them has claimed that the farmer in the next field broke the plough that they share, and the other farmer claims that it was definitely not him and it was the other one. And this is a matter of fucking life and death for these people, and they're furious they haven't been seen. You can tell, but when they're talking to you, they'll make it clear that like they need arbitration on this right now, or else there's going to be violence.
I'll nod sagely and assure them that I'll bring this to the ear of the Lord if such an opportunity presents itself. Such villainy.
Yeah, they feel heard and they go. In the chambers, you can see, Volin, that there are two ravens, or two missives, basically, that have seals on them. One of them is a red and black seal of the king, it looks like, with the dragon symbol upon it. The other is a horse, bright upon yellow wax. Both have been cracked, as you would expect. The Maester would read them first. And he would say, "The king is dead, Lord."
Aegon has died?
That's right. Shall I read it to you?
Please.
To all lords and ladies of Westeros, it is with a heavy heart that the news must reach all corners of the Seven Kingdoms. King Aegon Targaryen, fourth of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm, is dead. Long live his son and true-born heir, Daeron Targaryen, second of his name, now the true King of the Seven Kingdoms. Signed, Lord Tywald Butterwell, Hand of the King.
I don't follow all the gossip and news from the Red Keep, but from what I've heard, tensions are rising down there.
A great deal, Lord. The second missive is somewhat troubling.
Then continue.
To the peerage.
Or should we?
Would you like to gather the council?
He hears a servant walking around in the room next door, sort of loitering around, and he decides, we'll go up onto the roof and you can read it to me there. And
of course.
He leads him up a tower to one of the high towers where there's the cawing past the roost. So there's the cawing of ravens in between them and anyone else who can overhear.
To the peerage of Westeros, let it be known that on his deathbed, King Aegon IV legitimized all of his bastard children. King Aegon bestowed Blackfyre, the ancient blade of Aegon the Conqueror, not upon his soft-ruling, soft-spoken son Daeron, but upon the 12-year-old Daemon, who is now a legitimate son of the king. Immediately upon the king's death, Daeron II began to remove Leal's servants of the realm from office and replace them with Dornishmen. Negotiations with Dorne have left the Dornish with royal titles, with autonomy to create their own laws, and even the ability to collect their own taxes. Why does Daeron favour Dorne over the other, more ancient and more loyal kingdoms? The blade has ever been a symbol of Targaryen rule. Many now know the shameful secret that Daeron is in fact the child of Aemon the Dragon Knight, and not of the king himself. It should be known that the true successor to Aegon IV is Daemon of House Blackfyre, and that those who show loyalty now shall be rewarded when order is restored. Long live the king, Daemon Blackfyre. Signed, Lord Aegon Bittersteel Rivers.
A declaration of a rebellion.
Civil war, Lord.
Civil war if he's able to muster his forces before he's arrested.
There were many that hated King Aegon for his corruption, his wanderings, his... Not my place to say, Lord, but there were many who bought their way into the small council into powerful positions, and they have been replaced, it seems, immediately by Dornishmen, and Dorne is not long a part of the Seven Kingdoms. I could certainly see that many lords would be upset at this change. And they say that Daemon Blackfyre favors Aegon the Conqueror in many ways. Purple eyes, white hair, tall, powerful. And he has the blade.
These are general missives. They're not personally sent to us. We are not high enough in the reckoning of the Red Keep to merit them sending some personal message to curry favor with us. Maybe if we just, this is a troubling time. But troubling times can be good or bad depending on how we play our cards. I think it is time to test the mettle of my advisors. Send out riders, and we'll call I was planning on visiting Castlewick anyway. We summon my small council to Castlewick. We will meet there. We will visit
Lord Martyn.
Lord Martyn as planned, and we'll call a small council there.
Very good, Lord. I shall do so. There is a saying in Yi in the East that crisis and opportunity are the same word. And he'll smile.
And make sure my sister is there.
I will, Lord. And he'll...
And I'd like you to... Oh no, my sister's... She'll be in Belfry, so just send her the message, but she probably knows already. She has her sources.
Aye. He'll move down from the roof and into the rookery itself and begin writing the notes to summon the small council.
He summons Edwin, Edric, and Calin, three of his riders to three of his young knights riders who he uses as messengers to take the messages out, and then continues preparing for the trip to Carlywick.
In Westwick, it's also the day of grievances of asking the Lord for things, the day of petitions. And your vassal, Sir Uther Redbreast, a knight who served your father, comes to you, Niall. And he inclines his head and says, "My lord, although you think you can hear, maybe you're imagining it, but some sense that those words don't suit his mouth when he speaks to you." But he bows his head nonetheless.
Niall is a young man. He's good looking, and he always seems to have the look on his face that makes him seem like he's pleased about something. And the tone in this man's voice does make him pleased. And he says, What news have you brought before me?
There's been an incident in Great Cliff, which is one of the villages in your domain. In the felling of a tree, a boy was killed. And the father, near insane with grief, attacked the forester responsible and maimed him, clawed out his eye, and broke his jaw. My instinct was to have the forester pay weregild to the aggrieved man, but now this vengeance has been carried out. I am not certain as to which path to take, and so seek your guidance, Lord.
Grief is a terrible thing. I've lost many siblings in my time, and I know its sting. But for the vengeance to have... Did you say it was lethal? Sorry. Did he actually kill him or just maimed?
No, so the tree was felled and killed the boy.
Killed the boy.
And the
maimed.
father
Yeah.
of the boy went insane and attacked the other guy, tore his eye out and broke his cheek.
Will the man live?
It seems so, though less an eye, and his face will be likely maimed for some time. Lost several teeth.
The forester will be directed to pay the father a sum fitting by your thoughts. And that will be the end of it.
As you say, Lord. And he'll incline his head and then make his way out. You'll be given a missive not too long later as you kind of sit and wait for more people. There's not nearly so many here as there are in Greyfork. That basically summons you to Carlingwick. As soon as possible, Lord Vollen will be going there, and there'll be a meeting of the small council.
Yeah, as he reads the words, Niall throws out his chest. This will be his first council since he's taken the position here after what happened with his brother. And with word given, I suppose there wouldn't be many men here, but he'd go with some trusted individuals first to prepare his steed and then to make the journey.
Tyra, you're sitting out in the brisk morning air on the balcony of the Tower of Blackmere. You're breaking your fast as you often do, sort of looking over the Savas set that once belonged to your uncle. And you can see this commotion in the courtyard below as some of the soldiers bring in two men with their hands bound into the tower and await you. As you sort of see this, quickly there's like a polite knock on the door. My lady?
Tira looks down at the Sivas set and thinks even the footman can move the queen on the board, and then turns up and says, "Enter."
One of the servants will pop his head in and say, "Criminals have been caught, lady, and we require your judgment."
Bring them up here then.
He looks a little surprised, but doesn't say up here, and nods. There's a couple of minutes will go by as that message is brought, and then they have to drag the people up the stairs. And four of your guards will bring in two men. Their hands are bound and they've been beaten clearly, and they shove them onto their knees in front of you. One of them will one of your guards will look up and say, "My lady, these two were found in Warrington and have been caught accepting bribes from captains to let them berth their ships for a cheaper price. One of the captains, Conrith of Bear Island, came to report the crime and we brought them to you for justice."
What say you, men? She'll look at the bound, beaten duo.
Yeah, one of them will look up. His eye is swollen shut. And he'll say, "I am Aaron Wynn, lady. There's no excuse that I could speak that could lessen this crime. I have hungry children, and I only wanted what is best for them. Please spare us, or at least spare my brother." And he looks at the younger man next to him.
You have children. How many?
"I have 3, lady. Carlin has 2.
And because your children starve, you'd risk their futures at growing up without fathers?
Yeah, he looks down at the ground, and you can feel him thinking, "Well, I didn't think I would get caught," but doesn't say it, and is struggling to say anything that makes it better. And so he says nothing.
My lord and uncle had a simple enough tactic with dealing with the rats of Warrington. But I'm not unsympathetic to your plight. Though you have aggrieved my house and robbed my brother, there is no other words for it.
"I'm sorry, lady. I'm so sorry."
So they were taking bribes for better berths at cheaper prices. So essentially undercutting us as
Yes.
middlemen.
Yep. So they would have worked.
Still paying their.
They were still paying.
Right.
They were just skimming. They were basically changing the books a little bit so that it looked like people were paying the required price. They were just basically embezzling money off the top. Definitely stealing.
You shall go to the wall, she'll say to the elder, and you will become the father to your brother's children. And should they look to starve, come to me before you steal from my brother.
Yeah, the younger man looks at you with sort of wonder. "Thank you, lady. I'm a changed man. Never again." And the other one sort of looks quiet and looks down, but then looks up at you and says, "As you say, lady, thank you."
She'll nod to 3 of the guards to take the 2 men away and place the elder in the dungeon or whatever before the next crow cage comes down, or before we send our next trade errands north. But she'll say to the guard she kind of signaled to stay behind, "Have that one in his lot watched in Warrington, and if he commits further crime, maim him."
"Aye, lady."
I imagine there's some kind of bailiff or sheriff, things like that at Warrington. It's a busy port, so there'd have to be authorities there. I wonder, I'll ask this man, what was the judgment of those people? Why was he brought a day's journey here?
And he sought to kill them.
Portmaster.
And the men begged amnesty and wanted to speak with you, and that is their right. And so we brought them. Almost beat to death, but nonetheless.
See that the brother is not beaten further. Let's give him one chance. If he proves false, then, well.
"Aye, lady. I'll see to it."
She'll tell the man to seek out the kitchens once they've done their duties and take their fill, and thank him for his service by name.
Yeah, he'll nod his head and say, "Thank you, lady." His name is Harmon. And he'll go about his way. And again, you will too get the message that you're summoned to Carlingwick. That Lord Vollen is going there, and that you especially need to be there for the council.
She won't bother heeding that. She'll just wait till he passes through Blackmere and then join his entourage to head up to our northern border in his company.
Yep. In Carlingwick, Leonor, it's also the day of petitions, and there's a tall, sharp-featured man with this pale blotch of skin on his face, this thick black mustache, and he arrives at your hall quite early in the morning. And he's flanked by two others: a woman with these like striking green eyes, and another like heavy-browed, square-jawed lump of a man. And they all incline their heads. "My lord, I am Heston Harrow, and have the honour to be the alderman of the village of Grey Pines, the edge of the Wolf's Wood. We're quite some distance from your holdings here in Carlingwick, and I pray you might ask some leeway in terms of making decisions when it comes to the direction of our village."
Leonor will look the couple of them over and just kind of like nod, like continue on, like more information.
Well, sending someone to ask for the felling of each large tree or the returning of each caught deer in parts and so on is time-consuming, Lord. It's quite a journey from Grey Pines, and not a safe one either through the Wolf's Wood. We ask, with all due respect and leal service, Lord, that we might start to govern ourselves a little more, that we be given the ability to choose which trees to fell, and that we will provide you no less, he says quickly, simply that we need not come to you quite so often, and that we would be allowed to make some decisions for ourselves.
How reliable has Heston Harrow and his town been? Have they been like consistent and loyal to me so far?
Yes, yeah. I think you would know about Harrow that he fancies himself, like, he's the alderman. He fancies himself a bit of a leader, definitely. But there's nothing about him that would suggest, like, that he's seditious or, like, likely to, like, rebel or anything. But it is a case of, like, you know, there's, like, a certain level of, like, control that you have over every village. And they're asking to sort of lessen that a little bit to save them more journeys.
He'll kind of think for a moment. You've always been just in your dealings. I see no reason why such an arrangement couldn't be made. Instead of requiring permission up front in the way that you have the journey here, you will instead give a report. I guess like how often would it be? Maybe like every week. Yeah, I'll say. Instead of coming here for every single time that you must make any requests, do what you believe is right, and as long as all the channels are being properly maintained, you can bring a report after the fact of everything that you've done on a weekly and monthly basis, and we'll be able to review it then, but I'll give you jurisdiction over what choices are made until those things can and need to be reviewed if they do.
Yeah, the square-faced blob of a man sort of smiles at this, and you can see he's missing several teeth, and the woman is pleased too. And Heston will nod his head. "Thank you, Lord. Very gracious of you. This will make it so much easier for us to... Well, thank you for your trust."
Of course. Just be certain that the records are properly done and maintained. If there are any issues, we may have to return to former methods.
Of course.
Very well.
They'll see themselves out. You know that on the way to you is Lord Vollen, your liege lord, as well as the rest of the council will be making their way here. Carlingwick has been chosen as the place for this arrival. what is it, if anything, that you want to do to prepare yourself and the place for this this arrival?
Yeah, Laenor will have already, in the meantime, knowing that Lord Valen was going to be on the way, will have had, like, the servants and workers basically clean up the place to make sure it's presentable and, like, clean and well done. He's like a bit of a self-image thing, I guess, and like wants the place to be presentable. And will, upon like hearing that the entire council is like going to be here, that there's like more urgent business, will then make sure that he has everybody prepare extra everything for the additional people that are now going to be on their way.
Husband, there's a lot that we need to do here to make the place presentable. And she goes off on this list of like all of these little minor things that you would just not have noticed, but actually would be pretty striking. Like certain parts of the path haven't been cleaned, and there's like still like a half-built platform in like the center of the town, and a bunch of other things that she thinks would look ill if Lord Slate arrives. And she'll give you this rundown of all of these things that need to be fixed immediately.
Do we have the time and the people to take care of all of these things?
Oh, well, if you do some shouting, I think so.
Very well. I guess it's time for some shouting then.
Yeah, she smiles and will lead you to the first place, where there is, like I said, this is like unbuilt or half-built platform, with the intent of that becoming like a stage for all sorts of things like speeches and stuff made by you, or announcements and stuff, but also for performances and things like that. And so she's sort of looking at it with her arms crossed and her head tilted to one side. It's probably about 4 hours of work, unless you get a lot of people.
How long until Valen arrives?
She like looks up at the sky with this look of like, oh, just let me check the sky, and looks back at you.
Yeah, he'll kind of laugh to himself, like expecting like. I guess at a certain point, like as Lord, you just like expect your questions to be answered, like no matter how ridiculous. So he'll just like laugh to himself about it. Hey, you over there!
Ooh.
And he'll just like point to somebody who's like adjacent to the platform, like expecting that they surely must be working on it.
Yeah, he's like quite a big man. He's like got this like sack over his shoulder, and he just like thunks it onto the ground. Lord, yes?
Lord Valen and his crew will be here. Could be within hours. Do you really think that this is in any sort of state to be presentable for him?
Yeah, he looks like at you, and then at NYSTA, and then at the stage. It's like not even his job to be building it. And he thinks, no, Lord, thinking that's what you want to hear. It should be fixed.
Yes, it should. It'll just like give this person a look like, well, go on then.
Yeah, he looks at it, unsure of what to do, and will nod his head and like pick up this big piece of wood and hold it. Like not know where to go from there. But he'll like begin calling for others to join him. Begin bellowing loudly. He's calling for Jojen, which is one of the carpenters here, and he sticks his head out of his house, sort of like, what? And then sees that you're there, and will sort of come out of the house and immediately assist, and they'll begin working on that. And NYSTA will look at you and say, one of 10 things. We'll need to pick a dish to serve for the feast.
What's next?
We'll need to ensure that we have the appropriate dish. So you'll need to speak with any hunters around if you want something special. Beyond that, we'll need to make sure that the ale is cold and pleasant. And then like more and more. Yeah, it would be expected for sure. It's not a surprise that Lord Vaughn is coming. But it's more a case of like these things always creep up on you, and there's always things that are happening, and and NYSTA has a head for like every detail, and so yeah, you've got to like 100 things basically, and she'll just like not quite drag you by the sleeve, but like bring you to all these places and make you shout things until she sees them done to the level that she wants.
Yeah, and he will gladly trust her judgment on those things and lend his lordly voice to whatever needs to be lent to. He very much, I think, takes after his father in terms of his skill set, and will like leave the details to her and trust her judgment there, but ensure that her will is enforced as if it were mine.
Okay. Those of you who are traveling, is there anything anyone wants to do before we move ahead and get to Carlingwick? Nope. Okay.
I think I brief my sister on what's happening, and sort of we discuss it, but we don't need to do that sort of in game unless you want to.
Well, you can meet on the road. I think it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm. It may be just repeating the same sort of information. Unless,
Yeah, I think we just wait, and then we'll just act it out as if we've spoken about it for context after. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like unfair.
Yeah. What kind of train are you traveling with, Lord Vaughn?
I think because of I'd be traveling with. My wife has a southern carriage, and then we'd have a few wagons as our sort of train with our baggage train, and be riding with about 18 guards and the same number of servants. It's quite a big train, but I think we'd push on. I'm eager to have the council, so I think I'd push on with a smaller number of riders to arrive. Just myself and my sister, and for example,
is Brienne coming? Your wife?
She'll be following behind
in the cart,
in the carriage, but she'll probably arrive a bit after me with the children. And yeah, we'll ride in with me, Mordor, my sister, and half a dozen others.
Okay. Yeah, so the day will also are any of the other he's gouted, right? Lord Howland. He can't travel, is that right? We talk about that?
Yeah, he's suffering in his remote hilltop.
Okay.
In Foxton.
Okay. Excellent.
His big toe can barely stand the touch of his boot.
So then you'll sort of all make the journey from various directions towards Carlingwick and arrive and see it that it's a bustle with work being done. You can see like the final bits of drapery are being hung on like a platform at the center of the town. People are busy all around, and there's a good mood in the town as you arrive, and people will sort of wave excitedly. Children will certainly like run up to the train and like wave at like knights and things like that, very impressed and happy to see the Lord here. It's kind of an honor that you've come all this way. And you, Laenor, will be told well in advance of them actually arriving that they'll be arriving in the next few minutes.
Yeah, upon hearing the news that they were nearly there, would go out to meet them. Ah, my great Lord Valen, like Lord Slate, he would say. But and give a bow. It's such an honor to have you here in our humble town.
Thank you for your welcome, Lord Martyn. It's a long time since I've been in Carlingwick, and things have changed here. He says, looking round for something to sing the praises of. Well, what would he see? Can you suggest anything, Jeff?
I guess at this point, like the progress on like the ruins would probably, in 40 years or something, would probably have come along a fair bit. I don't know if that would be done by this point, but I'd imagine that the castle is starting to shape up into like an actual place, or at least start to head in that direction.
Yeah, so Carlingwick is not in the castle, so this would be.
I
know what you're saying. The castle is like within
Yeah.
view, but
Yeah.
I think like Carlingwick, the village, has now been built up to the point where you'd have this sort of like Mott Bailey sort of tower at least, and like the village would sprawl from there. But beyond that, like the castle is visible, but it's not where you are. If that makes sense.
Does Martyn live in the castle? I mean, if he's built the castle, that's where we'd be going, I guess.
I guess you could. I would have always thought that it's not quite there yet in terms of comfort and things like that. That it'd be comfier and nicer here, but we can switch that up.
And I was just mentioning in terms of like if it's visible and its
Yeah.
progress has been made, that would be a thing that the Lord might notice and comment on,
Yeah,
more
for
so
sure.
than it being like all the way done or like where we're going.
Yeah.
You'd at least go past the village, probably just to kind of be seen by the townsfolk and stuff.
Wouldn't, I mean, it seems castles aren't cathedrals. It wouldn't take 50 years to build a castle or repair a castle.
Yeah, you could live there.
And it makes sense to live there because it'd be the most defensible place, and it needs. I think. I mean, it depends. I mean, it's your call.
Yeah, it's probably like one of those things that like in Leonor's mind, it's like not done because
Okay.
it, like even though he lives there, but it's like it's not as nice as he wants it to look.
Mhm.
Whereas I guess for like probably most Northerners, it's probably just like a totally fine castle.
As you sort of like halt in the center of the village, NYSTA will like look in the direction of some of the villagers near the stage, and will like click her fingers, and they'll get up and they'll start playing some music, like little folky music, to make it a little bit more joyous. And she sort of looks at them with this withering glare, like you should have been playing when they rode in. But nonetheless, we'll turn to you, Lord Slate, and smile. My lord, most welcome.
He's looking like he's wanting to, since it's all pageantry and pomp and ceremony, he's looking like he wants to dismount, but he needs somebody for the proper pageantry. He needs somebody to take the rein. He needs either NYSTA or Leonor to take the reins and sort of help him dismount. He could do it easily, but in the pageantry, that's what's expected.
Yeah, I think Leonor would. I think like just see that tiny glint in the eye of like, if we're gonna make a show out of it, like let's make a show out of it. And we'll step forward to help you down. Take the reins.
He looks over at the castle. You're making fine progress. The masonry can't see where the old walls are and the new ones are. It all blends together in the sea-swept starkness of grey. He says, "And you're looking well, NYSTA," he says. You know my sister, of course, Tyra.
My lady.
Lady.
And I don't know if you've ever met. This is the young Halden, Morder. Have you ever met before?
Yes, I've travelled far through these lands, and it would be unwise to pass up the hospitality of this fine lady.
No, indeed. We cannot forget the last time you visited, I shall say with a smile.
Well, he turns and claps to the musicians and reaches into his pouch and pulls out a handful of coins, and then slightly stingily takes a couple of them out, sort of tries to palm a couple of them and throws the rest sort of flamboyantly at the crowd, and then says, "Shall we?" and indicates that they should go indoors.
It's a cheer from the crowd, and the musicians play an even happier tune, and you can make your way indoors.
I come before the rest of my train because we have received ravens from the capital, from the Red Keep, and I need to. Well, the messenger will have said it. We need to put our heads together. Is there a?
Yes, I thought there's. There you go.
Lead us to your council chambers, or a place for a meeting of the small council. We will have refreshments later, though. If that is all right with you, my lady, he says, turning to Tyra.
Of course, as you say, my lord.
Of course, my lord. I have already had the room prepared. I'll take you over there. We can begin to gather and discuss what needs to happen. Festivities and everything of your visit will, of course, be ready whenever at your leisure.
Oh, my Chamberlain can discuss with NYSTA about the domestic arrangements, but we need to speak politics. I'll have brought the Maester Oliver as well. So, Maester Oliver, can you read out the two messages again from the Red Keep?
Of course, Lord. I have him as Maester SYMEON, so I think there's a mistake.
Oh, sorry.
Somewhere.
Okay,
that's all right.
Yep.
He will reach into his documents and pull them out. From Lord Tywald Butterwell, Hand of the King. To all lords and ladies of Westeros, it is with a heavy heart that the news must reach all corners of the Seven Kingdoms. King Aegon Targaryen, fourth of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm, is dead. Long live his son and true-born heir, Daeron Targaryen, second of his name, now the true King of the Seven Kingdoms.
The king has passed. Interesting. And the other?
Yes. To the peerage of Westeros, let it be known that on his deathbed, King Aegon IV legitimized all of his bastard children. King Aegon bestowed Blackfyre, the ancient blade of Aegon the Conqueror, not upon his soft-ruling, soft-spoken son, Daeron, but upon the 12-year-old Daemon Blackfyre, who was now a legitimate son of the king. Immediately upon the king's death, Daeron II began to remove leal servants of the realm from office and replace them with Dornishmen. Negotiations with Dorne have left the Dornish with royal titles, with autonomy to create their own laws, and even the ability to collect their own taxes. Why does Daeron favour Dorne over the other more ancient and more loyal kingdoms? The blade has ever been a symbol of Targaryen rule. Many now know the shameful secret that Daeron is in fact the child of Aemon the Dragon Knight, and not of the king himself. It should be known that the true successor to Aegon IV is Daemon of House Blackfyre, that those who show loyalty now shall be rewarded when order is restored. Long live the King, Daemon Blackfyre. Signed, Lord Aegon Bittersteel Rivers.
Leonar's face will sort of furrow at the second message and just kind of give a knowing look up to the Lord Slate. This is serious.
The Dornish.
If this means what it sounds like, then there will be perhaps even as much as war.
This is a declaration of war. She'll point to the second scroll.
There will either be a swift carriage of justice and an execution, or war, depending on how much support Daemon is able to muster. I have not followed the politics and the gossip from the south in any much detail, but I have heard of discontent against Dawn. Dawn has been our enemy, the one kingdom that held out against the six kingdoms for so long, but and there have been many campaigns against them over the years. It's difficult to forget all your fallen comrades in an instant after a marriage and accept them easily. And there are other reasons to object to Daeron's attitude favouring of Dawn as they see it. So Daemon may be able to muster quite a bit of support.
I'm well aware of the losses that have been suffered against Dorne, like say, with a knowing look.
Yes, of course, I'm speaking to those with more connections to the south, or as many connections to the south as I have. But if there is a war, will this war spread to the north? Will it spread to the Stony Shore? And Daemon, the Blackfyre message was calling for people to ally swiftly with them. What do your hearts, what does your instinct say about this call?
Well, I left word for a rider to bring news from any raven that flies from the old wolf. Surely we should see what our great lord says about this.
Of course, the North knows only one king, and his name is Stark, as the old saying went.
Doesn't matter, kinsman. We don't need to burden ourselves with plots and preparations, for it might all be moot. Our lord is Stark, the Starks of Winterfell, and it is theirs to say which of these ravens we'll heed. What sense is there plotting machinations for one or the other if it's overturned in an instant by a raven from the Starks?
I wonder if our enemies see things quite so simply. war brings opportunity.
Mm-hmm. It would be an unwise vassal to declare against their liege's interests.
Mortar will hold up his hand as there's some disturbance outside, and Niall Snow is introduced into the room.
You'll forgive my lateness, Lord. I must introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I come in the stead of my brother, who passed some weeks ago. My name is Niall Snow.
We are sorry to hear of your brother, Niall. Come, you represent
Westwick, Lord.
Westwick.
And
Of
I am
course.
glad once again to see my brother-in-law. We have only met just the once. Sadly not invited to the wedding. I trust my sister keeps you well, Leonor Martin.
It's good to see you again, too. Please, come have a seat.
Yeah, Niall slinks over and sits down.
And the Lord passes down the copies of the letters so he can read them.
Question is,
Speak.
Sorry, my lord, go ahead.
No, I would hear you before I make my decisions.
Well, we all agree we have to wait on the word of our great Lord Cregan. But question is, which way do you think he'll go? He's an old man now. I think you're right. He may want to leave the Southerners to it, which means more independence for us, and maybe a little confusion over who secretly is allied with who. And I think his eyes will slide around the table, and maybe I guess it's no secret that you're still pretty allied with White Hill hereabouts. With so Leonor Martin and the whole Martin House Martin, is there? Do they still have strong connections to White Hill?
Lawrence was forbidden from marrying Kayla Whitehill, and was forced to marry Brenna Rivers instead. So I think there's not too much connection in terms of marriage, at least. I think like they're both Southerners, maybe, so they might have spoken.
Yeah,
and
that's
maybe,
what I'm wondering.
Maybe like
if anything, like Brenna would probably be pretty anti-White Hill, given the circumstance of everything. So given that's kind of his only real parental influence, I imagine Leonor would probably lean against White Hill rather than towards, because he probably only have his mom's guidance on that, who would probably not like her very much.
I think there might have been and there might still be occasional pilgrimages to their fine sept.
Yeah, that's what I'm
but it would be, I think, at least like purely religious. I mean, it can never be purely religious, but I think like the intent would be like, we're going to the sept because it's stone and has like, you know, I think still the sept here wouldn't be quite as grand.
Sort of diplomatic Cold War, just so there's no confusion over loyalties. So I would have said it'd be a more open reference then to like surrounding houses and stuff, like who might be allied with who, and keep it close to their chest for the time being.
When fools become brave and try to rebel against the system, it can often inspire many other fools to do the same. Do we have any cause to be worried of the people around us, that the unrest will spread from the king across the kingdoms?
Whenever there is weakness or disorder in the Red Keep, the Iron Islanders become more adventurous, shall we say. This is, I think, the most immediate impact on us, and we must be ready for their ships to be plying the coasts. And wait to hear from Winterfell of the judgment of Cregan. Do you have any other suggestions?
Maybe some forces to the north, my lord, just in case.
The White Hills. The White Hills have their spies and their eyes in our lands. I think if we have our forces ready to move and to respond, but I will not make an aggressive move in case it's. I will not move my armies into the north in case it's taken as an aggressive sign or provokes a preemptive strike.
We cannot forget, Lord, that Kayla Whitehill married a Lord of Bracken. Bracken in the Riverlands. Historically, the Riverlands are the battlegrounds for all wars in Westeros. Worth considering that those ties may have further-reaching consequences.
They may be dragged into a war in the Riverlands. They're not the only. They're not the only family with family ties who may try to involve us in this war. I know my wife often receives ravens from her cousin, and I do not know which way the rains will go, but I do know that they have little liking for the Dornish, and they may try to use their influence to move us in that direction. But it is not my wife who rules, it is I. I want my things to decide now is my son, Rickard, is now of an age where he should be squiring with a noble house and making the contacts that will be useful to him when he is old enough to rule, and learning the ways of ruling in a large and in a house that befits his station as the heir of Slate. Sister, do you have any advice on this one?
No, but I'll think upon it, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for the council?
What do we know of this Aegon Bittersteel Rivers? Pens the letter.
Anyone could roll a history check or a lore-wise. If not, the Maester will know.
Yeah, I'll just look at the Maester, I think.
Aegor Rivers is one of the great bastards of King Aegon. He had many that have become very well famed for their skill and ability. He is called Bittersteel. He is a great warrior, well renowned, and a longtime friend of Daemon.
And what ties to the Brackens, if any? He draws his name from the Riverlands.
Of that I am not certain.
We might count that many of the Reach may throw their chance to the Pretender. They have the longest, strongest enmity with Dawn. And the ascendance of Dawn in its unbent state no doubt grieves the Lords of the Reach.
I would not be surprised if many lords are aggrieved. Dorne has been given many special privileges, that is true. Perhaps I would not phrase them as they are phrased in this missive, but nonetheless, many things were acquiesced to bring Dorne into the Seven Kingdoms.
As is their right by defiance of attempted conquest. Their words still ring true. They did not bend the knee like the Starks or fall to Dragonfire like the Reach and the Westerlands did.
As you say, lady, that will not
Is
make
it?
lords less unhappy.
True enough. But Dawn's privileges are earned, just as their victory was earned over us.
There will be a great many
There will
who
be.
think that many thousands of years of leal service also has earned rewards. I do not agree with this necessarily. I'm simply trying to explain my concerns. It would be rather easy, I think, to convince Lords of the Reach or of other places that they too should have royal titles, that they too should be able to collect their own taxes and make their own laws.
I agree, many will seize the opportunity, but I think our old wolf is too late in his life to change his pelt now. He set up this branch of the Targaryen dynasty. He will not spend his twilight years and risk more sons to now bring it down. And what trouble is it to us if the Southerners slaughter each other?
Aye.
Let the Casterlys and the Reachmen and the Dornish slaughter each other for their Pretender, wash the Riverlands in blood. It does nothing to weaken the North. They will not chance the causeway to come up here, I think.
You misunderestimate the pettiness of the Southerners. If this new king does in fact take hold, he will remember who helped them and who did not. He will rule accordingly.
Though for a time he'll be busy with those that stood against him.
Exactly. That will certainly trouble him more than those who remained neutral.
But if we think ourselves a kingdom of Westeros, then each man's heart is split asunder by civil war. Yet, if we think ourselves Northmen, we are as yet untroubled.
Let the Brackens declare for whomever, and let them drag the White Hills in. That does not harm us either.
Aye, and if they do, well, maybe that may influence our choices. Well, with all due deference to the great grey wolf.
I do agree, though, that regardless of where this plays out, and regardless of where the Lord Stark will set his allegiance, that our eyes should go first to the coasts. They're the greatest threat, the most likely cause that we will be dragged into conflict. The wars of the kingdoms themselves, if they do come to us, it'll take some time. The
I
Ironborn
agree.
will not quite be so slow to act.
Just as we might seek to exploit advantage at our neighbours, the Ironborn will wait for our hosts to travel south, so we should not let that happen. I agree, the coast is where the danger has always come from foremost, to the Stony Shore.
Well, men to the beaches then, but we should not neglect the northernmost beach. A good cover for soldiers to be placed there. Even if they keep a weather eye to the north.
For many years it has been illegal for the Ironborn to attack, and they have done so nonetheless. Now there will be just cause for an invasion. If they side with Blackfyre, and we do not, we stay with the Trueborn King, they will have cause for war.
We would have no worry of that, Maester. I think if we choose the same king that the Westermen choose, the Ironborn cannot risk exposing themselves to their ancient enemies to take this broad, hard coast. And as I said before, there'll be no choosing for us. We all should agree, sirs, that we will side with what the Starks side.
Aye, but we all know he'll choose the true lineage. He's old enough and would like to see his power pass to his son. Anyone who gives face to an usurper risks his own lands. This Blackfyre, he is the king of young men, ambitious men, those who feel grudged, missed out, who've missed out on their own power and hunger for more. I say Cregan will favor the true-born king.
And yet the
Agreed.
question...
And just as every youth who's disgruntled will join the Blackfyre, every man who holds true to honour and law will go against it at instinct. And so just as the Blackfyre might have the young cockerels flock to him, the true king will have worthier men who hold station, not grievances, for their titles.
There is a question of who the true-born son is.
By law, they are both true-born. The king legitimized his bastards, and so that is not in dispute.
Which one is the elder?
The handing of the blade, traditionally always given to the heir. I could see that many would find this to be a sign of Aegon's true intentions.
Even Targaryen intention does not supersede Targaryen law.
If we give too much power to a sword, it may be more freely passed about than we would wish.
The real truth is that the power always lies with the sword, and it gets passed around as often as someone wants to wield it, even if it's in different forms.
Well,
As much
should
as
we
we can
place
talk law and tradition and hold to honor, The reality is that the stronger army will win. The one who fights better and plans better, and who wins takes control. And we'll have to reckon with that, honor or otherwise.
Shall we place bets then, my lords? It says.
Well, by that logic, the greater, older, more experienced lords will side with the true king, not the pretender. And as he holds the capital, he'll have the greater power and armies. But so by Sir Lauren's logic, the true king should win out with ease.
It has not the king slighted some of the older, more experienced, more loyal men by giving away their gifts to Dorne?
And in
Maybe they
return
will
has the
feel
50,000 spears of Dawn at his behest, if he should wish to call them against this Blackfyre too.
I'm not saying that he will lose or that he will win, just that the lines are not quite so easy to draw.
Well, a hard-fought battle then. And with it comes losses and also looking further afield to sway the loyalties of those who sit to the north.
Niall clears his throat, clearly not accustomed to such conversations. He's been dropped into this council where there is talk of war and service to the king and the crown. And he says, well, what must we do whilst we wait? If it is to allow others to move first.
We need to make sure that we stay safe, especially at our coasts. That will largely fall to you and I, since we are closest.
There will be no change. As it has already been stated, the king has done nothing to prevent the Ironborn's illegal incursions upon our soil since before the days of our fathers. Nothing has changed. But for a sword being given to a bastard.
But they've only nipped at our heels. This time they may come in force.
If you think the couple ships that land on a shore is the brunt of the Ironborn force, you're very sadly mistaken. If they see this as an opportunity to grab at further power and to exercise a chance at proper allegiance with the new king, there could be entire swarms of ships on the shores. It'd be nothing like any of the raids that you've seen.
Mayhaps that might fear Lord Cregan enough that he may stay aloof and guard his coasts like we aim to, than send his men to die under a southern sun.
I think it's likely that he would rather not be involved one way or the other if he can help it. Is there any chance that northern houses will see this as a chance to further the uprising and the division?
The Northmen are most loyal to the Starks than any of the southern houses, many of them forgotten the old ways of honor. I think the North is the most united of the realms and has kept much of its strength from the Targaryens as the Dornish have, whereas our other neighbors have been less fortunate. Or perhaps less wise.
Aye. And the White Hills are ringed about by these little Northmen. So if they act, it'll be in their conniving ways, unless they can bring some ally to their side. I, for one, my lord, I can take myself to Foxden. And if you don't want forces gathered at the border with Whitehill, I can set the hill folk and hunters and the like to keep a wary eye.
Do we not want Whitehill to declare, one way or another, that we might destroy them? Let's give them cause to choose, then.
That we do.
Especially if Lord Stark decides one way or another, if Whitehill must act in opposition of that in accordance with their alliances, could give us cause to go against them with the Stark's blessings.
But they'd be foolish to do so unless they have allies to bring to their side.
What ally can they muster here in the north but House Dace?
Aye, and what blood runs in House Dace?
Our ancient enemy's blood. Yeah. Our current Lord of Whitehill is not the great mind that his mother was, but he's no fool either. He'll certainly not expose himself to be destroyed by enemies who surround him. You need only look at a map to see his situation is hopeless. And what host would come north to protect Whitehill in the face of this civil war? It would take weeks by the causeway, and less by ships, but at twice the cost and peril.
Well, then they'll seek to feel out the strength of allegiance of houses hereabout, I dare say. And with their mouth, they may declare one way, but their heart may lie in another, until such time as they feel it wise to draw blade.
It's never gone beyond Whitehill to work from the shadows, act in secret against what they speak. We should be aware of what they might do, even if they declare in the same way that we do.
I think you speak wisely, Leonor. I fear the Ironborn militarily, but I fear the politics of Whitehill, and that politics, those whispers and rumors may be best employed in Winterfell itself. My father had a bad reputation. My father had a bad reputation in Winterfell, as you know, and although I fought against him, there is a question mark, and there has long been a question mark over the name of Slate. Maybe it is time to, and if there are whispers going around in these uncertain times, then maybe Cregan's ear will be turned. Maybe it is time to show our loyalty and to, for me to ride with a group to Winterfell, to be there next to Cregan and show our loyalty and offer our counsel in these uncertain times, whilst a group of my best warriors stay here, guarding the coasts and the north against incursions, possible incursions or treachery from whichever direction it may come.
The road not be dangerous, Lord. If what we have been speculating is true and Whitehill wish to send further grievance against us, would this be a simple opportunity for them to strike at you?
It could be, but the road is always dangerous. The road is always dangerous, and sometimes dangers must be run. I think there is danger. I think it would be a danger not to be in Winterfell at this time, where loyalties are being questioned, and there is this doubt over the name of Slate. This is my belief.
We might solve two questions with the same answer, brother. That of who should school your son Rickard in the lordly arts. Who better than the old wolf? And what better sign of loyalty to show to the Starks to soothe their concerns than to give your only son and heir to them till he should come of age.
The tradition is the fourth son goes to Winterfell, but I've never understood that.
This is a time of swords, as Laenor says, which may come over tradition. And you should remember well your histories, brother. It was our betrayal of the Starks, not once but twice, which led to our fourth sons being warded there in perpetuity.
Fourth sons, yes, but why not the first son? Why not the ruling son? That would have created a stronger bond with whoever it sits on the throne of Stark, on the throne of Slate. Maybe it is time to break this tradition and form a closer relationship, a closer bond with Winterfell. My proposal is to take my oldest surviving son to Winterfell. Or, yes.
He'll surely be safer in Winterfell than here, stuck between Whitehill and the Sunset Sea.
But my son is young, and I do not fear for my son's life in Winterfell, but he will not be able to manage the politics of the courts there, and the whispers, and the, if people are whispering against Slate and trying to bring us down, he will not be old and wise enough to counter them. We need a voice there.
More like we need an ear there, I think.
Aye. And someone to grow close to the new heir.
The flow of information will be crucial in this time, especially from the Starks more than anywhere else. Say the more people we have there with eyes and ears and mouths, the better.
Though 'twere always my understanding that the first son should be bonded with the land he rules and not risk becoming a pawn of the Starks. But Rickard's a strong enough lad who has his own opinions, and he has the Slate blood, it's true. He should be able to move wisely forward.
If we're being honest, have we ever been anything but pawns of the Starks? Seems how the North works.
Yeah, I think
Mortar, yeah, that's true.
Shifts in his seat and looks around. He says, "Aye, it's the way with lords and the like, but I ain't no man's pawn."
Tyra thinks about her Syvas set, but won't say anything to counter Mortar, though she thinks Laenor's correct. Maybe we should write Lord. Sorry, you go.
Niall, you were right when you said there will be danger on the road, and if Whitehill hears of us riding to Winterfell, doubly so. But if they do hear and they come for us, it will be dangerous, but it will be showing their hand, and it will be breaking Cregan's peace.
And the king's peace. And if they are persecuted for breaking the king's peace, they will choose the usurper's side.
Yes.
Which means we can then destroy them.
I say I ride with my son to Winterfell to deliver him to be a squire of the Starks, to learn
and to affirm our old bonds too,
and to affirm our allegiance to the Starks, and show in person where our loyalties lie, so there can be no doubt.
And we let every man hear of this, and I could put word through the ports at Warrenden. It will be not long till the Whitehills hear of this. Mayhaps the son may have less patience than the mother and strike out and give us what we wish. If not, we still complete our ploy and earn the Starks' loyalty, or show our loyalty to the Starks, I should say.
It's common too for pilgrimage to happen between septs. Those who worship the Seven are a rarity up here, and often find their way between places that allow their faith. It should be easy to spread information to Whitehill if such a thing is desired. If pilgrims to the Sept happen to bring word of Lord Slate's travels, if that is what we're aiming for. We should be wary, though, of balancing too much at once. If we involve ourselves in full-scale battle against the Whitehills, if such a thing does come to pass and the Ironborn come, in the midst of our conflict, we might find ourselves overwhelmed from multiple fronts. It will be a task to juggle, but one that, if we can pull off correctly, could very well be a great win and opportunity for us.
Then we need their provocation to be overt.
If the Ironborn come in strength, we will be overwhelmed. Whatever we are doing, and we will need to rely on our allies and our lords to come to our aid. We will have to fall back before them and survive until we can pull forward our allies. But that is our tactic, and I think we have known that. But I do think this possibly is an opportunity.
Did we establish
to show my loyalty? Sorry, Mordor. Tyra, you speak first, and then Mordor.
I was going to speak about our alliance web and how we won't be overwhelmed by the Ironborn. We have the Riswells, the Riders, the Bowls, of course our overlords, the Starks, and the Ironborn know that. Half a century's gone by. They're not idiots. They would know. Well, they are idiots, but they know. We have this marriage alliance, this web of defense, and strategically, why would the Ironborn invade the Stony Shore? If they were going to invade the north, they would attack Moat Cailin and cut the north in half, And they're trying to push a campaign from the Stony Shore across the mountains of Whitehill in towards the Wolfswood it doesn't make sense. I don't fear that there's some invasion springboard to the Stony Shore, though I still think we need to guard our coast against raids and opportunism. But look on a map, you only need to see that it would be a folly for the Ironborn to make their bridgehead at the Stony Shore.
Yes.
Compared to other viable places. Yeah.
Raids and piracy, but not an invasion.
Surely they will hang back to see which way the north declares, and if there is war to the south, that would be that would smell far finer to them.
The south has richer pickings.
And if
the Riverlands is the battlefield.
Fighting,
the Riverlands is going to be drawn into this civil war no matter what, because, like you said earlier, it is the battleground of Westeros. And then there's Riverlands who owe allegiance to both the usurper and the true king. So they're definitely going to be drawn in, no two ways about it. So that would mean the Ironborn have a nice, fat, rich target right there. Why would they come at us when they could raid the Riverlands during this war? The Seaguard has more wealth than the entire western coast of the north.
We are going to provoke Whitehill intentionally. We just need to make sure that we don't accidentally poison our own cup. If Whitehill does attack, we'll need to have some level of preparation to ensure that attack is not successful. Do you have arrangements to travel to ensure that you can do so safely if they do mount an attack?
We cannot guarantee safety, but we have no. but I feel it is a risk worth running.
I would agree. Just need to make sure
There is one more
that it
thing
works.
that must be decided in this council. Should I die? Should I die, then first Ricard and second Liana will be in line to inherit. But until they are old enough, they will need a guardian,
Regency.
a regent to rule the Stony Shore. And I would like us to decide here, so there is no doubt. A regency council is always good, but there should be somebody with a final say. Niall Snow, you are the newest to join our table. You have said little, but tell me, what are your impressions and thoughts on what I have said?
Niall looks around, catching the expressions of all who turn to face him, shifts in his seat for a moment and says, as I understand it, it would be only right for you to appoint someone who shares your blood, Lord, to provide regency should an ill fate befall you. Who is the closest to you by blood, other than your children?
Lady Tyra has had her trials, and she has proven herself to have a head on her shoulders. But she will need strong arms to. Sometimes the men of the North are slow to listen to a woman's words. She will need loyal champions to enforce her decisions. Should the men of the North question her right to rule as a woman? Mordor, Leonor, Niall, can I rely on you to back up my sister should I fall?
House Eddie has always stood in the position it belongs, at the side of House Slate, and while I do not bear the name Eddie, I do stand in its name.
You are House Eddie's representative here and today, and you are playing the part well, young Niall. I'm grateful you came in your in your cousin's place, in your half brother. I've never understood the relationships in House Eddie.
Yes, it's a somewhat complex matter, Lord, but I can assure you things worked out for the best in the end.
You'll be judged on merit, not blood.
Aye, Lord. I plan for that.
Aye, Lord.
You have my word as well, to stand behind Lady Slate if the need arises for her to rule. Though, if there's anything that the Northerners would take less seriously than a woman in power, it's a Southerner. But between all of us, we should be able to manage. And I think it's important that a Slate is in charge. That more than anything. This is how these lands have always been.
You
as
were
far as
born
I've
in
heard.
the North, were you not, Leonor?
I was.
You have a Southern name, and you wear Southern armor, Southern style armor. But I don't. if you rode into the south now, I think they'd take you for a northerner. You're some half breed now.
Maybe so. It could very well be the case. Regardless, I will stand behind Lady Slate if that is what needs to, in the event that that is what happens, and ensure that her orders are followed through.
Aye, Lord, you know it. You know I would stand by Tyra. We've shared enough and grown together. And if some trouble comes along to overturn her Servas board, well, I'll be there with my sword. And I'll swear it beneath the tree, if you wish it. Heart's oath.
The winter was hard on our horses, and I do not think it is necessary to sacrifice any horses for this oath at the moment. I will take your word, but maybe it would be offending the old ways. What do you think? Do you think it is an oath that needs to be sworn in blood? Mordor of Halden?
Aye, well, tis the ink of oaths, my lord. But we can find something. We can find something hereabout, something stirring in the spring. Does it need to be one of your fine horses, if you've grown over fond of them?
And learn, Martyn. The old ways, well, you have a sept here, and you follow the ways of the South and the Seven. Would you feel more comfortable swearing an oath in one of your round temples?
I'll gladly swear my allegiance if such a thing is asked of me, but I would ask that you allow me to do so with the customs of my own people here.
Well, that I do not doubt your words are good enough for me, but there are gods. I do not doubt that the gods exist and watch what we do, and though your oaths will satisfy me, if they do not satisfy the gods, it might bring ill upon our ventures. So I would rather placate the gods with the traditional oaths of both the old gods and the new, he says. But tomorrow morning at dawn, I know little of the Seven. Tell us a suitable time for you to swear your oaths to Tyra as my successor, whether you can do it now or at any time, and then it will be done. And if you need witnesses or not, and tomorrow morning at dawn, we'll do the sacrifice at the, well, there is no, we have no tree
My
here.
lord, if it please, I trust these brothers with my life and with the future of this house, and they are all men proven. I have heard their words, and that is enough blood for me.
It is not for you, it is not for me. It is to not offend the gods that these are the traditional ways of swearing oaths, and if you break the traditions to the gods, it may bring ill favor on our fortunes in the future.
As you say.
Do you laugh at my superstitions, sister?
No, I do not mock your fervor, your faith, brother.
I'm less fanatical than my father was, but they still have a grip on me.
Yeah, she nods, doesn't say anything further, but that's exactly what she was thinking. Like, that's something father would have said for his madness. But she won't say that at the table.
Then
Well, the gods will show us a sign, I'm sure, my lord, before we return. Close by the scarred tree. And here we depart to Winterfell. And I guess he'd look up at that, kind of seeking affirmation to see whether he's going to be going or staying. I used to serving at your side for quite a number of years.
because we are tempting fate and inviting danger on the road, I would have the best men with me, and I will leave good men to guard the coast, but the best I will take with me. Mordor, Lena, the ones here.
Then I should take word to Foxden, my lord, and then meet you back at the Grey Fork, if you wish it.
As you wish, but are there any more? Is there anything more to be decided in the council? He looks round from one face to another.
How go the food stores, my lord?
Here or generally on the Stony Shore?
If we prepare for attack and perhaps war, and it being spring at all, winter stores are running low. I guess this probably comes under the purview of the MAESTER, maybe.
The managing of food and stuff. I think Maester's more of a. I mean, he would have exact numbers, I guess.
Depends if he's the steward or not.
Yeah.
As well.
My impression is not that he would be. At least my impression.
I think
is
our
that,
land's too big for the maester to be our steward as well. Like, it'd be fucking full on just to be the maester of a land this big. I think if we were a pokey little house, then it'd be dual role. But I think we'd have a dedicated steward, wouldn't we?
I assume that there would be someone whose job that is. If it's not one of you or Mordor's dad, then I would think. You know,
Tira could do it. She's literate and very intelligent.
Yeah.
There's also Sigrid, who's your sister, and Yggdraine and Astrid. All of those are sisters who are still alive, as far as I can tell. It's very hard to know. Oh, Astrid is sorry, Alfric is not here yet, right? He hasn't arrived yet.
I thought he had.
Oh, he has.
Yeah, he has, and he's forsworn his line of succession.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. But you do have
into that family.
You've got Sigrid and Yggdraine, both of whom are.
Yggdraine's married out though to Bear Island,
but Sigrid is back though, hey, because she had hassle with Boltons. There are certainly more people than that that could do the job if it was that way inclined, but.
I'll say to the council, I'll take up that role if it's not already been established, or if I'm not already doing it. She has a head for numbers. She's literate.
We'd already have one. Yeah. If you want to do that, you can be responsible for stewarding. And though he'd be quite interested himself, and he'd be taking a sort of semi-active. He'd be checking up on how things. Or he's quite a conscientious lord, so he sort of checks on all details. To some degree, he doesn't know maybe all the details that you'd know, but he'd have an overview.
Yeah, I think there's been peace for a time, and you've done pretty. The interconnectivity of the Stony Shore is better than it's ever been. So I think in terms of that, it's easier. You get better harvests. The infrastructure is better as well. So I think you get better harvests than you ever would have previously. Certainly in your father's time. So I think pretty good, I would say. If I can only give a vague estimate, I would say better than previously.
Ever.
Yeah.
We are better than ever. Like
Yeah.
Slater's more powerful
By a
than
mile.
ever, richer
Yeah.
than ever, more populous, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what shall I do here in your absence, my lords?
There are all the peoples with an interest in the Stony Shore will have their spies in these parts. It'd be good to know. Be good to try and identify the different spies that are feeding our plans to, well, our competitors and our lords and our kin, etc. There are people in the pay. That was one task. Another task is to push on
My lords, what if we were to take a girl dressed as Liana, but leave Liana with her mother in Greyfork, secreted away, let it be known wide that she too is making the journey to farewell her noble brother? Surely then the White Hills won't be able to risk if myself, your two heirs, and you all are travel abroad. They might take out our entire house with one swoop.
Will you be traveling with us then?
She wasn't going to, but what if we did? That's my plan.
I think this is a good plan. We'll send Lyanna to the safest place, which is Greyfork, and give them an apple and see if they go for it, and see if we can survive it.
Surely they will come as if brigands. How many forces will you take with you?
If I'm taking my full family, I cannot. I will have to ride with a minimum of 30. Otherwise, it will seem unrealistic. Maybe
And north through the Wolf's Wood.
60.
So is it through the Wolf's Wood we would go? I guess you could go up the Grave. We've looked at this before, I think.
I think the Wolf's Wood would be the
most
take
tempting.
us closer to.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, like, if you were trying to be safe, you wouldn't go through the Wolf's Wood because it's dangerous. But also, if you go south through like Greyfork and then through like Torrance Square, like, there's no way that Whitehill is going to
be
there, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a question of like, if you want them to try and ambush you, then you have to sort of announce your route and something, I guess.
Yeah. Because
what about if we make a pilgrimage to where our brother fell?
Mm-hmm.
If we intend to visit the Wolf's Wood where what's his name? I think it was
Jeremy.
Jeremy Slate was killed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That gives us good enough pretense.
I think he was killed at a different time of the year, but his birthday was near enough around this time, as I recall.
You can also, I mean, you could actually also do this if you like, but go to Ironrath, where House Forrester is, and talk about Ironwood and shit, if that's still an interest. Because then you'd have to go right past those places, like, through the Wolf's Wood, sort of. Like, if you want to go
and if the shit hits the fan and blows up in our face, then we've got an egress, like we can escape to there, or we can try to escape to there, as opposed to if we're just out in the Wolfswood isolated, then don't really have a safe haven.
Does that literally take us through White Hill Land?
You'll be north of it, but you'll be in the...
Close.
It'll be close to going through Whitehill Land, yeah.
Oh, so I'm just wondering whether he would ask permission normally.
Not to go near.
Not to go near,
I
but
think if you're passing through with a force, so if you took
you'd have
to ask, you
know. Definitely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's invasion.
Yeah.
Well, if
Don't
we
tell
were,
that to Lord Cregan in the context of the Ironborn.
if we are trying to draw their attention to the fact that there's this great journey to Winterfell, would it not be beneficial for us to march our forces and ask if we can go through their lands? Because how else are we going to let them know of this?
And we want them to know, yeah, that's it.
Well,
We want them to
we've got to
know,
march
so-
through.
It would
We have
be
to march through
easy to
somebody's land.
have information filter out to them.
Ravens and have some go missing, maybe.
If
I mean,
We have
you could also
many
get
people come from my lands to theirs to visit the Sept and vice versa. It'd be very easy to start planting rumors. There was enough notice.
There's another option would be to go via Grey Fork up the river, past Lake Hall, and like get out at the river at High Point and pass through that way. But then I guess part of the thing is too, you don't want to be so obvious that you went to High Point, because then if you go missing, they're not going to try it because it'll be so clear they did it, you know? It's
Yes.
levels of how obvious you want to be, because if it's too obvious that you're there and then people die, then, you know, fingers are pointed.
What about if we just march north from Carlingwick into the Wolfswood
Ironrath?
for the Foresters, and we'll go through Branch land. Someone's married to Branch, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then we can, because we're known rivals of Whitehill, so we wouldn't go through their lands unless we needed to, like unless we absolutely have to, right? So it makes more sense if we veer around them.
Yeah.
Lawrence can disseminate the information to them by virtue of being their neighbour, and then once we've visited the Foresters, we can skirt around the northern tip of Whitehill, risking the Wolfswood rather than paying homage to our rival, which makes sense to people who are in the know of us, and will probably make sense to the spies who are watching all of this.
Yeah, I don't think we should even officially tell them that they have spies.
No.
They
Yes.
will know we are traveling.
They'll know.
And
Yeah.
if we tell them, it's more they'll be more suspicious.
And they can argue.
Yeah, that's why I basically wanted
provocation.
to like plant rumors through like
Mm.
like travelers more so than like any direct message. Just like I'll have people, you know, who just are going to visit their sept by chance, who just happen to have big mouths, you know, about
Yeah.
you know things that are
Mhm.
happening.
That's the
Aye.
best way.
They
Happen
have
to
their
start
own spies.
talking,
I'm
and then-
sure they have their own
Yeah.
spies already. You know.
Yeah.
Lord Martin, we know for sure they'll be leaning on the faith of the Seven to feel out your loyalties as well. And while we would never question your loyalty, it may not hurt to have them do so.
Maybe because
Perhaps this very afternoon, sirs, we all quarrelled, and we've left here in haste and in wrath because our Lord Laenor here wishes to declare for the usurper, not the true king. And there is some wedge between us that's reignited the schism of old, where Whitehill and Lord Lawrence were concerned. They might think him a possible ally to turn to their cause.
I'd be wary of such a public declaration, even if it was just to Whitehill. If they were to spread that rumor and it gets to people like Stark, that points a finger back to us if they believe that I am a part of such a rebellion.
True, and the Starks have spies here just as sure as the Whitehills do. Make no mistake of that.
Just a quarrel then. Let them make up their own mind what it was about.
Mm.
is it necessary to have a quarrel?
No.
If we travel, maybe we travel under strength, maybe with the best of our men, but under strength for who is traveling in the party, and disguise ourselves as, I don't know, normal merchants or something like that. They will know that we are not merchants. Their spies will be able to tell, but they will think that we are. Maybe I'm overcomplicating things, but give them the impression that they found out information that we are sort of worried about our security, and so traveling in disguise rather than at full strength, and they see this as an opportunity. Is this have I made my idea we are a honey trap or something like that. We are pretending we are merchants, but they know that we are pretending we are merchants. So they think we are vulnerable, trying to get there in disguise because we do not have the strength, and so they will seize the opportunity.
Why would we disguise ourselves as merchants to travel when we can summon 100 men at arms to ride with us? They won't believe that, I think. They'll smell that something's amiss.
Yes, I am.
Why would we?
To leave enough forces to guard against the Ironborn, but I think it's as you say, it's not convincing.
We had 300 men in our army 50 years ago, and we've only prospered since then. You know, so even if we were to take 100, it wouldn't compromise our defences. I think they'd know that, being our neighbour and having spies in us. I think the more moving parts, the more rank the stink will become, and chance that Whitehill will sniff it out.
We ride. Do we have spies? Do you know do we know roughly the forces that Whitehill can put in the field?
Yeah, I don't doubt for a second that Tyra has been working towards that end.
Foxden too has like a lot of hunters and
wardens.
You know,
I think
legacy of the wardens.
At an outer level, definitely the scouts and stuff would help, but I think the inner level, I think it's reasonable to think that you have at least one person within the court of Whitehill, Tyra. So if you want to, I don't know, create them, that's fine. And I think you'd know that, like, militarily, they're probably have less men than you.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
On the size of your domain. They do have a core of like really excellent knights. I
want to travel with a number that they would be tempted to go for, but would not be easy.
I think less than a score smells foul.
Oh, definitely.
But more than 2 score is the same. I think there's a sweet spot somewhere between 40 and 20.
I agree. That's probably a number whereby they could like reasonably, because if it's more than 40, then they have to send like a force, you know, and then it's more like a battle, and that's not great for them.
Bad news.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like they want to be sure. If I'm them, I'm thinking I want to be able to get them all as quickly as possible. No witnesses, kind of thing. And battles don't really work.
And we're going to be a horse.
Yeah,
we're going to be a horse, right? So if we had too many and a horse, they'll freak out because there's too much risk that one of us could escape.
Yeah,
they'll want to be able to envelop us, which means it might be worth taking 20 mounted soldiers and then ourselves. And I wonder if it's too like bizarre or like too overt or obtuse to have squires and like youths dressed as handmaidens, you know, so that it looks like we are a company of say 30, but with only 20 guards. When in actuality, it's actually 30 warriors ready to go, like swords underneath the dresses or whatever. Tell me if you think that's farcical, but
maiden
that's
chin.
an idea.
We need maiden chin.
Yeah, another beardless pretty men as such.
Yeah.
What about that pretty southern cart your wife rides in?
Aye, that would disguise half a dozen crossbowmen, methinks.
Would that be is there a road? I mean, it can only really travel on roads. Is there a road through the Wolfswood? Good enough.
I think because Ironwood is such an ancient seat, they would Ironrath, sorry, there'd have to be, right? Like even though it's a dense forest, there'd have to be a path.
There's
because,
definitely a road.
How would they transport wagons of Ironwood to?
Is it a King's road? I mean,
there's definitely a road that goes to Ironrath, and I'd say from Ironrath, it would go to. Let's have a quick look.
But there's a very different quality.
There's one that
roads
goes
and sort of.
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be like a big stone road, I don't think. You know.
No.
Not through the Wolfswood.
But it would be wagonable, right?
Yes,
like they're a trade house, so they have to have wagon roads.
I think there's one definitely that goes from Ironrath to like Deepwood Motte, and
Whitehill too, I think.
High Point, and then somewhere to the coast, so maybe Stone Roost or Wolf Harbour, maybe somewhere like that.
Harbour makes sense, actually, right? Like if you're a trade house that's landlocked, you want a road to a harbour.
And if you're transporting something as heavy as wood, you know, like
with oxen and stuff, worked up.
Yeah, you'd be droving
something chronic.
Yeah, but my sort of, I don't know, my impression of.
Yeah, I think you're right, Caius. I don't think
wagons
really-
throw wheels, break axles, sort of need bailing out of puddles that just riders don't.
Mm.
Yeah, it's another question of
And
projection
it is
of
spring,
power
I
too.
guess.
Like
so
if you're the kind of person who brings a carriage, like to bring your son to Winterfell, you know, there's a projection of like, well, I'm a big ass lord and I'm doing this. You know?
Actually, maybe then.
I think certainly. Like,
Yep. I think
I know
so.
what you're saying. I know tires go flat, wagon wheels break. Yeah, that's not in dispute. But like, I will not believe that Ironrath doesn't have multiple roads that are wainable, connecting it to other places. Like, it's just,
It's an
I
ancient
won't hear it.
That's just the reality of travel in those days, anyway.
Even on good
Yeah, even
roads.
if you're on the best of road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely with snow melt and if it's actually hauling like timber and everything, you're gonna have massive big ruts and like you could definitely get a wagon along there, but I think it'll be hard work.
You just need to travel with loads of spares and be ready to sort of stop every.
And our wagon's not going to have lumber in it. It's going to have crossbowmen.
Yeah. Well, we'll need to
Could
stop
also
and make
serve as like
repairs
a good bait trap for them as well. Like if the important people that they're after are going to be in the carriage theoretically, because that's kind of his purpose, then that makes it a very big target where you don't even necessarily have to kill everybody immediately. You just have to like take control of the carriage.
Fortified carriage.
Make it more tempting,
And it'd be easy to trail too, right? Like wagon footprints are unmistakable.
It'd be very obvious where we were going, and where we've been.
So we'll take a carriage and we'll take the carriage and support, at least one support wagon, one sort of baggage trains and all that.
We'd need it for that many men and horses.
And you'd be bringing stuff to Winterfell, I think, in tribute and whatever, you know?
Gifts.
Trade.
So yes.
It's a big gamble, but and just so we're agreed that Lyanna will stay at Greyfork hidden, and it will be a false Lyanna who'll come with us, just in case our plan goes wrong. Lyanna can rule
immediately, though, before any of this gets out any further. She should be gone by this evening.
Or maybe it's better if she travels with us up till we get to Carlingwick, and then by night we switch her in out, and then she goes into hiding, and then we head on. That's probably better actually, because if they're they've got spies around, they'll probably be pretty wise to it if she's cruising around in Greyfork. So we might need to put a bit of truth in it and have her come with us to a point and then stay in Slatelands, and then off we go.
Would help
and it would just mean
to the rumor a lot more if she was seen leaving with us.
Yep.
You know, like
for sure.
It becomes undeniable that she's with us until we swap
and
it
if
out.
we all get knocked out, like we've still got, like your wife seems very capable, Jeff, and Mortar's father is capable. It's just that he's physically incapable, right? So it's not like with all of us being destroyed, worst case scenario, Lyanna's bereft of a council. She could reform a council based around the Lady of Carlingwick and the Lord of Foxton.
Perhaps if she was to wait up in Foxton, she'd be less likely to be seen.
I think so. Just story-wise, or just to link in, you know, the two knights who came in arguing over the illegitimate son that we're taking in as a boy. Can he be the substitute for? Can their son be the substitute for?
Great idea.
The son of Adam Ashmar and Waymar.
Yeah, so he's Adam Ashtree's son.
Ashtree.
And Waymar is the brother of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
He's his uncle, and he's been looking after him, basically. So Waymar of Dunwick.
Yeah. So he's adaptive. Yep. Excellent.
What do you think about that bastard child? I was thinking of this when you had that scene. If that bastard child, if you gifted it as Lord, it's the last name of Ashtree rather than Snow. That way you tie it inexorably to the father and you appease the uncle. Like that's what I would have done. Yeah.
Well, he recognized it in public at the court. Recognized his son, right?
So he recognized him as a bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's different.
I'm not going to. I think bastards are not that uncommon, and we'll see if he proves himself. Then he'll if he proves himself in this adventure and things like that, then we can sort of move his status up in the world. But we'll see.
Especially if he's capable and he's a squire. If he has a nobler name, then that's better for us in the long run. So, but something to think about after he's proven.
Yep.
Because I definitely think declaring that he's your son in a court in public is like at least a halfway step. You know what I mean? To legitimize.
Yeah, but they weren't wed, so it's still a bastard, even though they're both nobles. You know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. Oh well, it's as much as you can like something that risks everything, or nearly everything. But I'm pretty happy. I'm happy with that. Like Tira seems pleased enough with that. What's our time frame? How should we coordinate this? Should we just send word and have the children come from Greyfork, or do we disperse now and all go back and then reconvene?
I dare say summons
If we do
from
want
the Grey Wolf may be on its way.
I think that would only serve to.
Well, we'll see. But whether a summons comes before we leave or not, we'll leave swiftly. I want to be in Winterfell as soon as possible to demonstrate. If we get there before he expects us, it will demonstrate our loyalty better.
True. Yep.
To sort of counterbalance that, we do also have to worry about the fact that if we want Whitehill to know specifically, that it'll at least take however long it takes for people to get there, for that rumor to start to spread. Now, we could already be starting our way on the road by the time that they'll get there, assuming that nothing happens to them on the road. So
Whitehill spies will be able to ride faster than people with wagons and carriages traveling along a road. They'll be able to.
My lord, you have yet to return to Greyfork before you can depart. So this gives some days.
Actually, I don't, because they were coming. They're following.
They're here.
They're following here.
Yeah, they'll be here.
Who's that? Sorry, who's following here?
The kids and
my wife and family.
Brienne.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Slate/Rain.
Well, let's have a bio break and then go and risk it all. Throw one dice.
All right, yeah.
How different is this from the last one? We were so meandering.
least Tyra and Lord Volan, I'd want to send word to Foxden to have them prepare to at least threaten the southern border of White Hill if it comes to it.
Might be worth taking a caged raven with us too, inside the wagon.
Yeah.
With a pre-written letter and a blank scroll, and so that we can send off a dove if need be. Call in a broken arrow, a broken slate.
A dove or a hawk, so to speak.
That would mean going back to Belfry, but Belfry's very close to Carlingwick anyway. So, like, if we're going to decide on that, then Tira could go do that this afternoon and still be back, presumably in time for the dawn oaths. Right, cool.
Are oaths necessary if we're all travelling together? It's still.
Well, I didn't think that were necessary anyway. So,
placate the gods.
You were the one who was really going for the oath thing.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, it's up to the Lord if the oaths are said or not.
I feel like Mortar and Niall, like, I feel like them and Tira, because of what happened with Dace, they already have kind of like oaths together anyway, like unspoken oaths of bond. So that's why she doesn't feel like she needs to hear their oaths overtly, because she already trusts them with her life anyway.
I guess if the point of the oath was that we're like representing Tira if Balin dies, if we're all going together, then that's kind of a moot point, because if we die, we're kind of all going down together.
Yeah,
point, unless someone can duck out and escape.
Mortar's more than happy to take the pick of Laenor's herd, maybe like a fine grey calf, and sacrifice it. There's no tree hereabouts, but he's more than happy to take liberties with your stock.
Is there a tree at Belfry?
No, that's the tree. The tree for Volan / Belfry is now at is Jeremy's lands, so Mortar's father's lands.
But we can do it maybe. Or so much rests on this gambit anyway. Maybe we could do it at like when we actually get to Cregan's.
I'll do it in Winterfell.
Just having that Alston line superstitious dread of he wants to do it because it's a risky venture. He wants to have the gods on his side. He wants to do some sacrifices before he goes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Yeah, that makes sense to me as well.
Yeah,
Campaign is still called Old Ways, so
yeah, maybe with some grudging permission from Lord Martyn, I'll pick out a fine grey spring calf and slate grey, and sacrifice it by the dawn light. As well for the success of the venture, I would say.
Yeah, more for that, I think, than the question of loyalty, like the success in the venture and asking the old gods to bless whatever's about to happen. So then, Tyra, you'll return to Belfry to get a raven, is that right? With the predetermined destination of Belfry?
Yeah, that's right. I was just going to type it in the thing there. Yep, just to grab a raven and a couple of bits of paper and a quill.
Yeah.
No, I would have approached the MAESTER to send word back to Westwick, just telling of where he's going.
Maybe we went together. Maybe you and I traveled.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Together.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But we would have, caught up like mates, and we don't have to do that in game. But yeah, that would have been cool. I think if we did that
For sure.
I was thinking too, Lloyd, with that. I don't know if we know each other well, but I put in my backstory that you travelled with Mortar when I was in peril escaping the Dazers, and like you were.
Oh yes, no, I remember. Yes, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so she doesn't know you like long, like she knows Mortar, but I think there's like a forging moment there. Like she owes you her life, so she trusts you.
Sure.
Yeah, with that prisoner Lloyd, the guy who I'd sentenced to the wall, I don't think actually technically I could have done that. I think I should have had to have sent him to my brother. But either way, I'll if it's okay, I might bring him with me.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
His name is Aram. Aram Wynn.
Yeah, I'll take him with me for future juice.
Yep. Yeah, I guess he'd be under the impression that you're going to bring to Winterfell, and then from Winterfell he'll go to the Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So then, any other last minute preparations you want to make? It doesn't have to be last minute. I think you could take days if you wish. But is there anything specific you want to do before you go? The calf has been sacrificed to the old gods, hoping for success in this venture. I guess the other question is, how many people are you bringing? Get a definite on that.
Us, 20 guards.
And then 10 like squires.
Yes.
Are you gonna go with that? And they're dressed up as pages and handmaids.
We want horseback though, right? Yeah, 20 riders. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, while the others were doing their oaths to the old ways, Leonor would stop by the sept as well to say some prayers of his own to the new gods as well, just in case. He takes that, I think, more seriously than Larence did,
Right.
and would also begin to get people who are perhaps either already on the way. If there was anybody already like beginning pilgrimage towards Whitehill, or any, basically if not, he'll find some people to send, at least just to start talking on the road, to get rumors going for spies to pick up on, and so on.
Yeah, if you tell NYSTA, she's adept at that sort of intrigue stuff, or you've seen that of her before, that she's well able of like dropping something into a conversation and making it seem sort of harmless and getting word out there. She's done it before, so she can do that and get the word out there for you, as well as yourself, like talking about it in the sept and places like that, and the word will spread pretty quickly, you think?
Perfect.
Just to enter it into the record, perhaps while Lord Martyn is taking his oaths within the sept, Morda takes a reed brush with some of the blood of the sacrifice, and pushing back a clod of grass that grows up to the foundation, one of the foundation stones of the sept. Marks it there. Probably a face, like a tree face. And then grinning to himself, and swigging some wine, checking to see if no one's seen him. We'll wander off, whistling.
If possible, the Lord would, Volin would attend both the sacrifice to the old ways, and he's not a sort of practicing member of the Seven, but his wife is, and he's sort of he's attended a fair number of ceremonies over the time as a sort of attendee guest, as it were, and he's not converting or sort of taking any oaths, but he knows how to. He stands there and watches in sort of approval at the back, and then goes to busying and preparing the men, making sure that they're ready.
Right. Well, preparations are made. Tyra and Niall head back as quick as they can, and then return, and will arrive before dawn the next day. And you can take all the people listed, which is going to be about 30 people plus all of you, from what I can tell. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we need one other good person. I'll get a recommendation from. Yes, it will have to be because we're staying in Carlingwick. One of Leonor's best men to accompany us, so he can sneak out with Lyanna and dash down to
switch.
Yeah, do the switch.
There's a man who lives in Carlingwick who's, I guess, like head of the soldiery here. He would have fought a lot against the Ironborn and whatnot, and would have been one of he would have fought in Dorne and everything as well. A veteran of that war. He made it home when many didn't, but he'll take that mission. And he'll kneel before you, Lord Vollen. Lord Slate. I keep saying Lord Vollen. That's just like a holdover.
Lord Slate.
Yeah, Lord Slate. And will swear an oath that she will return safely.
What is your name?
It is Domeric, Lord.
Domeric. Well, Domeric, this is your trial. This is your opportunity also to prove yourself a great servant of House Slate.
I spent most of my life in service to House Slate, and I will not stop now, Lord.
Well, and that is why you have been chosen. Well, I trust you with my family.
No, you honor me, Lord. I'll see to it that she's safe.
And she can be a bit absent-minded and a bit lippy at times, but she's got a good temper, so long as you don't try and feed her mushrooms.
I'd sooner face hordes of Dornishmen than a little girl. In my experience, I've had two of my own, but I understand. I'll take your warning, Lord.
Right. Are we all ready? Let us ride to Winterfell, and let nothing stop our wagons on the way.
Okay. So am I right in thinking that you're going to basically take the route that would take you to Ironrath? You intending to stop in Ironrath, or are you going straight to Winterfell?
I mean, if we're going through Ironrath, we'll have to stop and sort of greet the Lord, but we're not going to stop any time. We'll just hopefully overnight and then pass on.
Yeah, it's basically on the way.
Yep.
Okay.
or do the sort of what's required for, keeping relations, but nothing more. Our objective is Winterfell.
Okay. Yeah. So you set out that very day, a train of near 30, as you move from Carlingwick northwards towards the Wolfswood, this gigantic, maybe the biggest forest in the world. And you move with good time, making good time. There's not too much hassle from the carriage, at least yet, and you'll go past a little village called Grey Pines, with about a couple of days later, through Grey Pines, which is where those that Elderman had come from, Lenore. And it is quite a distance, and you understand why they would not want to make that journey every time they have to ask to cut down a tree. And then straight through into
that Grey Pines. Grey Pines is when the Sir
switch.
Domeric will leave with
Yeah.
Leanna.
Yeah. He'll do so. He'll
Without fanfare or anything like that.
yes. Yep. They'll just ride off in a different direction. And then you go onwards, straight into the Wolfswood. The trees in the Wolfswood are simply massive. There's a great deal of ironwood here as well. It's like massive trees that tower above you, and a huge amount of pine all around. You follow the roads as best you can. They're definitely not the King's Road. Many of them are cracked and broken in many places from constant thawing and freezing. And there are just needles literally everywhere, all over the road at times. And occasionally you need to stop and lift the wagon over certain cracks in the road that are too wide for the wheel to handle. But it doesn't slow you too much, your progress. And you have enough supplies and things with you so that you can rest comfortably at night, and enough people here that you feel relatively comfortable. Though every night in the Wolfswood, you hear the howling of wolves, unsurprisingly. There are a great many wolf packs here in the Wolfswood. And maybe there's something that Mordor finds that it touches him in some way to hear the howling of these wolves. At least it would of his grandfather, certainly. And yeah, you can make it. It'll probably be the better part of 4 days, 5 maybe, to get to Ironrath. And you enter into the lands of House Forrester. And you'll be greeted quickly by like patrols and things like that who'll politely welcome you and then escort you to Ironrath itself along the roads. Ironrath is an ancient house deep in the Wolfswood. There are roads that lead in various directions from it, and much of it is built of ironwood. It's an impressive castle to look at, and an unusual one as well. It's not all stone, but you don't think that it's any less defensible for that. And as you arrive in Ironrath, you'll be greeted by Lord Morden Forrester, who's a young man with a bright smile and blue eyes, and will welcome you. Lord Slate, weren't expecting you.
Lord Morden Forrester, I do beg your pardon for coming unexpectedly through your lands. Urgent business takes us to Winterfell. This is the first time I have seen Ironrath. You have it is an interesting place. This is the first holdfast I have seen deep within a forest, where the main thing to support you are the forests rather than fields and such. I could learn a lot here, I guess.
Well, I'm glad that it impresses you. You're most welcome, of course. Hospitality is vital in these dark times, nay? You'd have heard the same as me, I think. We were kings once here in the Ironwood, in the Wolfswood. You were kings once too, I'm sure. All of the old houses were.
The North had 100 kings at one time. Long ago, if the stories are anything to go by. But 100 meant we had wars all the time, and 2 could mean the same. And that is the reason for our travel.
Aye, indeed. I reckon there'll be a summons soon from the old wolf.
Well,
I seek to stay out of it as best I can, if I'm honest. I think it's unlikely any army will make its way through the Wolfswood to Ironrath.
I think it unlikely, but well, now is a time. I feel called to visit my liege lord and pledge my allegiance to him, and that's why we are travelling. There's been
welcome to stay as long as you like. I know the road through the Wolfswood can be difficult, bouncy at the very least.
Yes, we've had to get out and push at the wagons sometimes, but that's to be expected.
Yes.
If you could, how late in the day is it?
It's probably like mid-afternoon, I think, by the time you get here.
Can we afford to lose a few hours? Niall Snow, how tired are the beasts of burden pulling the wagons? Do they need a break, or shall we press on?
They breathe hard, true, Lord, but they will not tire as long as you command it.
I cannot. You speak fairly, but even a lord cannot command somebody not to tire.
Perhaps a short respite then, Lord. I can give word.
He looks hopefully towards Lord Morden Forrester.
At least stay for a drink or two.
If you can spare us a drink or two, here. Yeah, we found these. I hope we didn't infringe in any on any of your rules and forest laws when we trapped these wood pigeons back there. But it's not much of a gift. But here.
Yeah, he smiles. Pigeons from my own lands.
Well, they.
You spoil me, Lord.
He looks a little bit embarrassed.
He's laughing. He's not mean-spirited about it. He thinks it's fine. It's not a big deal.
We have salted herring from the Stony Shore, my lord. Such exotic fare.
Goodness, how decadent. I'll be glad to taste it.
What we do have is some good beer.
Some good conversation is plenty.
Yeah.
Hospitality matters, man, now more than ever here in the north, I think. And close ties should be vital now. I fear that the old wolf is near his end, and that's quite a legacy to live up to.
I remember my father and my and my grandfather thinking he was near his end. Who knows how long the old wolf will live on for.
They always said the Starks were kings of winter, but perhaps he is truly winter itself.
The long winter.
Anyway, enough of this courtyard standing around business. Let's get a drink.
Let's do it.
Yeah, lead you inside. It's a gorgeous hall, and the whole place is very impressive. It's really striking and unusual, imposing, but not in the sort of like dark grey, cold stone way that most castles are. It's all like warm, and it has a different feel to it for that, though no less imposing. And he'll lead you into the hall where there are shields of all the of various bannermen and stuff of House Forrester. They would have like many smaller houses in the Wolfswood who serve them. He'll bring you into the hall and sit at a table with you, and drinks will be brought. And actually, he'll wait for you to crack out your good beer that you mentioned, but food will be brought certainly. And he will try a salted herring, though I think it'll be clear to everybody that he's not a fan, though he'll still kind of, great, lovely, as he eats it.
MARTYN, let me present, this is my sister, Tyra.
Lady, a pleasure.
He moves on to,
My lord.
and, sorry. This is,
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I said, my lord, as it plays, and she'll curtsy to her, to him, and ask if she might see the godswood.
Yes, of course.
there are quite a few of the old faith who would love to see a godswood, such a famous godswood actually, so deep in the Wolfswood.
Yes, of course. I'll take you. Let's have a drink and something to eat, and we can go for a walk.
The others, this is Leonor of House MARTYN, born in the north but of southern stock, Mauda Halden and Niall Snow.
Yeah, he inclines his head to everybody, and we'll say hello.
In honor of my lord.
I imagine I've met him before, having because House Branch is not far away, right?
Yeah, it's to the east.
Yeah. So
yeah, and you have
good to
similar
see you
names. You
again,
remember
my
each
lord.
other.
I see your trees have grown that much higher.
Oh, yeah. Always at it. Thankfully. It's careful curatorship is the only thing that keeps them growing, you see. Without us here, they'd all fall over.
I thought it was all that shitting in the woods. Oh, well, excuse me, my lord.
Yeah, I think he laughs at that, but I imagine like Leonor and maybe even Tyra are like, Mortar, what the hell are you doing? But then he sort of like laughs at it, and maybe it's clear then that there is a comfort there, familiarity or something.
Can weapons be made from it, Lord?
Ironwood?
Aye.
You could make a stout club, certainly. It's too hard for... you can't really sharpen it, but they make incredible shields.
And bows, my lord?
It's difficult, but it can work.
Do they have the...
That is something I would, that I should like to see. And she'll like take a drink of it and like give him a smile with her eyes over the cup.
Well, I'll be sure to show you.
Niall was 2 seconds from asking about the bows and sort of glares over at Tyra.
What do you make of it then? Do you think he's a legitimate king? There's talk that he's the son of Aemon the Dragon Knight, and I don't know.
Darren or Damon?
Darren. They say that he's not really Aegon's son, but I think Aegon had so many he wouldn't even know himself.
I do not interest myself in court gossip. I have... These are dangerous times, and I trust Lord Cregan to guide us through. You need... when there are shifting loyalties and dangerous currents, and the sands of loyalty are shifting, you need a sure pilot to guide you through the safe passages. And I don't know the politics of the South. I'll be happy to rely on Cregan's judgment, my liege lord, on this.
Aye, that's wise. I just can't help but gossip sometimes.
Gossip is fine.
Well, a less loyal man may ask whether either of them are worthy.
They're worthy because they Actually, just a quick aside: do they still have dragons?
No, not anymore. The last dragon would have died right before we started the first season.
Yeah. Hmm.
Perhaps, and he'll kind of look into his cup, swilling the frothing ale there. Perhaps the dragons are fading. Who knows? Hard to tell from this far north.
They are our tradition. They are our traditional kings. Maybe a new tradition, but if you mess with tradition, you've got to be sure of yourself.
I suppose in the grand scheme of things, they haven't been kings for very long. Nonetheless, I don't mean to speak illoyally of them. The king is the king.
Whoever he is, he says, whichever one he is, he says, raising his glass to that.
Yeah, he'll smile and say, "To the king."
To the king. And he drinks.
To the king, Niall says, like about 5 seconds afterwards, and it's an embarrassing quiet that follows.
You'd like to see the
Tira
Godswood.
says, yeah, Tira says to the king as well, but she thinks of the Slate Kings she's read of. Those histories she discovered at Belfry up on Wolf's Den. But she'll shake that away and say, yes, yeah, of course, whenever's convenient.
Yeah, he'll lead you through the castle and up several stairs to where you lead out onto a balcony. There's like a cliff basically that leads to the Godwood. The trees here are the biggest you've ever seen in your life. It's not even close. They tower like so high into the air. You've never seen anything like it. And they are, as wide around as 5-10 times the biggest tree you've seen before. Just massive. And Lord Forrester walks through them with, you can see like great affection towards the trees themselves. And he'll occasionally run his hand along the bark of one of them as he passes, and lead you through this place. It's quiet, and Godswoods always have this sort of almost supernatural quiet to them. There's something about the splendor or like the ancientness of them that makes you inclined towards being quiet. And he'll lead you through maybe like a 10-minute walk until you move through. There is like this great stone, this like massive ancient stone with faded carvings upon it, and before it there are 3 weirwoods in like a triangle, and he'll like look up them with pride as well.
She wants to say many things because of all this, but is like mute and silent because of like the ceremony of it and his reverence. So she'll just like pray and think to the old gods of wind and trees.
It's my favorite place in the world, this.
It reminds me of the old grove in Howling Hills. Ancient history. What have those eyes seen? She looks at the blood eyes of the trees.
And how many kings have come and gone?
Since before the Kings of Winter, they've been here, they say. They've seen it all.
The Wild Watchers.
And the North remembers.
I wonder what these words and this stone say. Is it old speech, do you think?
We don't know. It's been here longer than we have. And we've been here 2,000 years.
Tira knows some of the old tongue script. from her languages.
Tira, you paid more
Does
attention
she
to our
recognise
father
any of
when
it?
you paid more attention than me to our father when he tried teaching us the old speech. Can you make anything out?
She'll bend down and let the grey and black slate cloak kind of blanket around her, and with gloved hands. Actually, no, she'd take her gloves off to touch the cold stone with her bare skin, and brush the snow and any leaves, big 5-fingered red dying leaves away, and peer at it and see if you can discern anything from it. Is there a roll that you'd want, Lloyd?
Yeah, do you have Seathwise?
I'm not proficient in it, but I'm intelligent,
Yeah, I'd say try that then.
and I also know the speech of Old Tongue. Would that give me any advantage
Yes.
or something?
Well, it allows you to make the roll. I think it's so ancient that
Okay,
it's,
fair enough. So my roll is no, critical fail. So a 3 all
ancient
up
and
on
too
a skill
faded.
check.
Yeah, the script is too faded. It's almost flat, the stone. You can barely make out what the carvings may have been once. It's been washed by rain a million times, and thawed and frosted, and yeah, it looks like it's almost gone.
It says I don't know what it means, and soon the wind will steal all its secrets. She'll say that mournfully for Morden.
We never knew. We thought maybe a warning. Usually a warning.
The old folk also made their scripts to show places of sanctuary and safe harbour, and she'll give him a smile at that to counter the sorrow of that. Even though the knowledge is lost, you don't even know what you've lost, it's still painful, I think.
Well, if any place in Westeros is a sanctuary, it is this one.
I remember old widow Ranvi telling tales about the first men and the first men and a pact with the children of the forest. Maybe this is a record of the pact, but of course I'm just speculating. Who could know such things?
These 3, and she'll point the milk white trees.
Oh, they'll know. It is unusual to have 3 like this together. It must have been a sacred place.
My grandmother would know. Yeah, and I think kneeling down to the stone, he'll kind of pass his hand lightly over the grooves. I can almost hear her voice telling me to look harder, stop being so stupid. And she'd say, why else would you write anything in stone except not to forget? It always says, remember.
Yeah, he nods at that.
Morden Forrester, I have a request. I have never seen a place more impressive than this. Should I die, but there are still people loyal to me, I ask that my body be brought and put in the earth somewhere near here. Or maybe I am breaking traditions. Maybe the slates have their traditions. This is not my place, but it is a beautiful place.
If that's what you wish. Most of my forebears are buried beneath the wood father. You can point, and you can see the biggest tree must be 300 feet tall, impossibly large, and all around it, in sort of concentric circles out from it, there are little stone markers. We couldn't put you there, but there are other trees.
Do you have children? Modern Forester.
I do.
Sons and daughters?
Just a daughter so far.
You probably saw my son. You probably saw my son Ricard back in the. We left him back in the hall. How old is your daughter?
She's 5.
He nods and leaves it at that. But clearly there was a thought developing in his head.
Yeah, I think he senses it, but doesn't say anything. You don't think out of rudeness, but more that like she's 5 and he cannot consider that she could ever be a grown-up.
Mm. Ricard's about
I think he's 12.
12, I think.
Yeah.
Niall will look to Lenor and under his breath say, "Is the Lord unwell? He keeps saying, when I die this, when I die that."
It's the cost of being a lord. You have to expect death at every turn, because it comes for you at every turn and it must be dodged at all costs. You have that much responsibility and that many people against you. You can't help it.
Yeah, Niall just sort of grimaces and gives a grim nod.
I think there's something about these sorts of places, as like his gaze will just point towards the godswood trees, that makes people more somber, especially the people who look at these trees for any sort of guidance.
Yeah, I think naturally in a place that's so ancient, you sort of think about your own insignificance, maybe. And to I think a lot of Northerners that's comforting, but maybe to a Southerner it's not.
For sure. I think there's probably it's probably a place that actually exceeds expectations, because there would have been a lot of talk about this place, but none of us or our forebears ever visited here. So it's like that confirmation almost.
And you'd have seen the little ironwood at Vollen, in the Vollen lands.
That's right, yeah.
And like those are big trees, but in comparison to these, it's nothing. Like these trees are staggeringly enormous, and they must be thousands of years old. You think? Never mind the weirwoods, how long they've been here.
Yeah, it must be so gloomy in there with the high
overhang.
canopy.
Yeah, it'll be dark almost. Yeah.
Compared to seps where there's like colored glass and crystals refracting the light into rainbows and
chanting,
and they'd be
noise.
warm. Seps would be warm because there's fire in there. Out here it'd be cold.
Yeah, it's opposite in many ways. Well, I'll leave you to pray if you're that way inclined. And when you're ready, find me and we can fire some arrows.
She'll smile at that and thank him and go before the 3 with anyone else who goes to pray.
Yeah, Lord Vollen will go through a sort of silent ritual to himself, or some sort of silent prayer, and then make his way back to the hall and start drinking some more.
I think you're used to praying in front of one weirwood, and so you're looking at it, but the feeling of looking at one and having the others look at your back is something that you're not used to, and there's a weird dread that comes over you, I think, that you weren't expecting when you pray here. That you are being watched in a way that is not usual. Usually you're staring right at the weirwood, and so there's a definite difference.
Yeah, I think Mortar will stand there also in the midst of the trees, and feel the chill gaze of judgment upon him, his failings, already at his young age too numerous to count, until he'll kind of sniff back the beginnings of a runny nose there in the cold and the dripping wet, and look around maybe at the distant figures of Lord Martyn and Niall Snow, and walk over to them. Must be time for some drinking, eh? Can't have you standing around too idle. You'll catch your deaths of cold.
The wind will pick up, like, as you say those words, as if on cue.
Yeah, so he'll definitely put a playful hand on the shoulder of both of those two, and do his best to get them really drunk.
I think this is definitely a time for celebration, for sure. I think Niall wouldn't hesitate in the sharing of ale.
There's sort of a strange relief when you leave that Godswood. It's so somber and so heavy that when you leave it and get back into the warmth of the hall, it's a real feeling like there's a weight off your shoulders, as if you could feel the centuries when you're in it. There's sort of like an elation, like you've been carrying someone on your shoulders for a while and you put them down and you have that floaty feeling, a little bit like that as you like enter back into the hall. And yeah, you can make your way through the hall to the other side where there's another like level, and there are archery butts here. It's like clear that the foresters like practice this a lot because they have it here right next to the hall. And Morton will be like putting on like a bracer and whatnot, and you can see these bows that are like that he's taken out, and there are like attendants and stuff helping with that. These long bows that look heavy.
Yeah, I think Tira just watch and admire the longbowman and watch him fire a few volleys before before going to him, unless he's already summoned her.
Yeah, he'll fire one or two and then say, "Would you like to try?"
I'll try, but I can't say that I'll succeed, my lord. And she'll take up the bow, and it's probably way too heavy and way too high poundage for her.
Yeah, it's pretty big. You could try and make a strength check if you want to try and fire it.
Yeah, she'd give it a shot anyway. 14.
Yeah, I think that's enough. You're able to put it. It's not like a perfect shot, and it's still very difficult. I think your arms would shake a little in the pulling, even with being a practiced archer. But you can feel that, like, if you were able to master this, that it would hit like a truck. You think it would pierce through armor.
I'll ask him with a smile and almost apology for my like ill shot, and say, "Do you have anything smaller?"
Yes, we have some training versions if you'd like.
Yeah, she would. Look to one of his I don't know, attendants or guards to see if they can get her one of those.
Yep. Yeah, they can provide you with like a smaller like training bow. Most of the ones that are like finely made and are like tipped with like bronze at either end and stuff, those are massive, like the one that he just fired. But there are smaller ones too, for, you would imagine, like those who are not like shaped like an upside down V like he is, from a lifetime of firing this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as quite a proficient archer, once she's got a good poundage, she can fire a couple of accurate volleys into the butt, into the target.
Yeah, he's keen to like. This is like one of his favorite activities, and so he'll like
start
to like bet and like play little competitions and stuff like that.
then she'll definitely shoot poorly and claim womanly inferiority, and then shark him if possible.
Yeah, I guess it's like bets for drinks or whatever. And he'll end up chugging a beer at the end of it.
I'll say, my lord, I hear you speak of your daughter, but I do not see her or your lady wife.
My wife died in the childbirth. My daughter is at education at the moment.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
She is warded elsewhere, your daughter?
No, she is within with the MAESTER.
She stands to become a great lady of the realm of the north.
I'm certain that she will. She has a lot of her mother's spirit, I think.
Who was she?
A Glover. And you can see that he's like maybe uncomfortable talking about it, or like
Yeah, she'll beg his forgiveness and put a hand upon his shoulder in apology.
It's I don't talk about it often, and well, you understand, I'm sure.
The trees make me think of my own grief too. This helps, and she'll hold the bow.
Yeah. It helps with not thinking.
Come, we have a journey early in the morning, and it's better that the slate men drink early rather than later.
Aye, let's get to that.
Should go and seek out the knights.
Yeah, it's pretty nice inside. The hall is like warmer than other castle halls, considering there's not a huge amount of fires and stuff lit. It's you don't know why that is, but it feels that way. It doesn't have that sort of strange echoey quality that a lot of like halls have, where if there's not a lot of people in it, it feels very empty. This one doesn't feel so empty, considering there's not so many people here. There's a couple of like attendants and warriors and stuff that would be that would live within the castle, and you can drink with those. I don't know how wrecked you want to get. I think Mortar's intention is to get you hammered, but you're safe here at the very least in Ironwrath.
Mortar will engage in a drinking competition with someone, one of the warriors here. My intention is to try and win an Ironwood shield.
Oh yeah,
but I'll probably wait till he's drunk, even to get him to make that wager.
Yep, I think that's definitely plausible. And he'll wager your pelt.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably. So I have a background, which is drinking.
Are you talking about the character?
Do you get that as a racial bonus for being Australian?
Yeah.
It's one of my lessons. Drinking, you spent many cold nights drinking with the Gothi.
Yeah.
And now I have a tolerance. Remember the things drunken men say. But I assume it'll still come down to a grit roll or something, or
yeah, I think so. Let's call it a grit roll. That seems to make the most sense. But if you have that background, I'll say you can add your proficiency to it. Again.
Okay.
Yeah, like expertise.
Plus 6. 22.
Okay, he gets a 16. All right, so his name is Randar, and he's really going for it. You can tell, and like whenever you like slam the cup back down, he's like looking at you, waiting. But then there's a moment, and I think you would maybe have strategies for this, but there's a moment where most men who can drink a lot misjudge, and you can see that happening pretty quick. And he, his eyes start to swivel a bit, and he's wobbling quite a bit, and then he's like downing the next cup, and he like slams it down and looks at you and goes to belch, but instead vomits on the table. And then there's like this massive like raucous like cheer and like chuckle from all the other people around. Yeah.
Gods, I need to piss. And I'll probably stagger. I push people out of the way and stagger outside. Probably ending up at the base of some massive ironwood tree.
Yeah.
Falling over as my eyes travel up its trunk.
Absolutely sacrilegious. Yeah, and you can win an ironwood shield. He'll be really pissed off in the morning when he realizes, but he won't renege on the deal. But he will say in the morning, all right, but give us a tooth from the pelt.
A tooth, is it?
Yeah, just one.
Tell you what, I'll swap you. I say, just peering at his mouth.
You what?
and I'll give out a laugh and slap him on the back. All right, then. But you owe me. Just remember, Renner.
Yeah, I'll remember. Never forget your fucking face.
It's the blurry one, covered with your spew. And I'll work a tooth free.
Yeah, nice.
From the pelt. Would I have a giant direwolf's head on my belt? I'm wondering. It'd be pretty cumbersome. I think maybe I have a.
And also, we're going to the Starks. Like,
Yeah.
we don't want to do that.
I just imagine it's such an amazing thing that it'd be so weird to not include it. You know?
Yeah. I imagine there's like I do have the teeth. I imagine the bones are somewhere.
What if they're
too.
like the buttons? What if the teeth are used as buttons?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like toggles.
Yeah.
And maybe a necklace. So yeah,
direwolf's
I'll
canine
work
tooth would be like 3 inches long, I reckon, like at least.
Yeah. Is that the Donna Rolf?
Yeah.
In this cloth? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. So I've actually have one anyway. And
Yeah.
I'll put it into his palm with some significance, all laughs aside.
No, and he'll feel it too. And like respect that even though like he lost, there's still some humility and like you weren't an arsehole about it. Yeah.
And not relinquishing his hand, I'll lean in, breath probably sour from last night's drinking, and say somewhat quietly in his ear, "There may come a time soon when we brothers of the North need to band together. War's coming, and we won't forget who our friends are."
That's right. North remembers.
Aye.
I'll fucking get you next time though. He'll say a little bit louder and slap you on the shoulder. Alright, is there anything else you want to do in Ironwrath?
Just one question. Forrester, how far is it from here to High Point?
We don't go there often. He'll say with a
I'm
smile.
not surprised.
About a week.
A fair way then.
Yeah, all the way there, certainly. A lot of that's the last bit up the mountains.
Then hopefully the lightning strike that hit their weirwood, that hit their white tree, is unlikely to start a fire here. You protect them well with the old traditions, and it makes lightning less likely to strike. But in some places, they put walls around them to protect them.
That wouldn't be right. Imprison them. Their land.
Well,
We're just renting it.
definitely. But, well, I'll say no more. You look like a good tenant, he says.
I do my best to steward them in my time.
I've enjoyed my stay here, Lord Morden, and I would like, from what little I've seen of you, I like the life you lead here, and I would like a closer tie between our two lordships in the future. We must speak of this. I am in a hurry now and must hurry on to Winterfell, but we will speak of this when we get the chance, maybe on the way back.
Yeah, he looks at Tyre for a second and says, I'd like that.
And saying that, he turns and bids the sort of troop to start moving.
Yeah, as you sort of get packed up to go, like his that morning, like his daughter, he'll be like holding her in his arms or like against his hip or whatever, and she'll like wave at the knights and at the fanfare out of it all. And he'll sort of follow you to the gate as you leave.
A little bit down the trail, he turns to Tyra. What did you make of Lord Morden?
Tira is in thoughts of the night before and thinking of how she'd hoped the man was unwed in the Godswood secretly in silence, and then to find out how he was, she feels queer about it, and the kindred grief they shared made her think about and look at him more in the feast than she should have. And when you ask her about this, it's like you've probed her mind for a moment, so she has to like shake her head and look up from her saddle horn to meet your gaze. I found him an honourable lord, a fine man.
You had a good long conversation with him last night.
He seems a man of peace, gentle knowing.
He moves a little closer to you and says, "And are you looking for peace in your life?"
Yes, I think we are. Of course, we're all riding off to chance our lives to gain peace. But you can see she's obfuscating and being tangential.
He leaves it at that. He leaves it at that and doesn't press his sister anymore. But you can see he's thinking.
Okay, so as you make your way further into the Wolfswood, on the way towards Winterfell, it'll be quite a journey. But we're going to have to call it there for today, and we'll pick it up next time with possible complications in the Wolfswood and hopefully arrival in Winterfell.